Hey everybody, welcome to the Nightmares Podcast. This is yours truly, Mark Conway, executive producer and co-creator of Living Nightmares. And to my left is, of course,
Brandon Rakowski, co-creator, director of photography, and head writer of Living Nightmares.
Zach Smith, who never wants to introduce his title. And of course, we actually have a very, very special guest, a dear friend of ours, and a Chicago director, and a Chicago writer, and a California born and bled and bred. I guess bled is good for this podcast too. Blood. If you want blood, you got it. Go ahead, sir, and introduce yourself.
Hi, this is Jeff Botelho from GoLucky Studios. Executive producer is the other thing that I do a lot. So that's just I came to Chicago in 2010 and kind of started over here, but I'm from California originally. Wow, I'm looking at the sound metrics and I'm a lot quieter than Mark.
Mark knows how to project his voice.
I got that big booming theater voice, man, that just goes...
Theater!
Mark can't whisper.
Yeah, that's what that was more...
Everyone hold! Mark, whisper.
I'm whispering.
That is not a whisper.
Oh, they scared the shit out of the cat.
Dude, I have two volumes, loud and asleep.
Loud and asleep.
Mark, louder and more intense.
Loud and A.
Funny. So we got a plethora of great topics to talk about today. I don't think there's anything particularly pressing in horror movie news this week.
Well, Zach and I did watch the last two Alien 40th anniversary shorts.
And then we're definitely going to go into that. And then also our guest has a very unique perspective on these particular ones. I know we talked about it in our last podcast. I think he can offer a unique perspective on the Alien shorts that not a lot of people can. So, gentlemen, if you guys want to take it away on talking about the last two Alien shorts, and then I will let the reins go over to Jeff to talk about the contest itself.
All right. So just to recap from our last podcast, Zach and I talked about the first 4 of the 6 Alien anniversary shorts. Overall, very much mixed bag. One of them we loved, 2 of them we hated. One of them was
very meh. It either needed more time or a better written script. One of the two.
Yeah.
I'm going to lead with more time, but the script still could have been a little bit better.
Yeah. So anyway, the first, or the 5th short, but the first one we're talking about today, Alien Harvest. Zach, how about you start on that one?
It was good.
What was it about?
People trying to escape off a escapecraft or something like that, and then it just kind of ends with oh, okay, that just happened. It's not great.
So are we doing spoilers or not?
Sure.
Okay, I don't really feel there's anything to spoil on this
yeah,
one. I feel like
it's a very predictable piece, but at least it's visually entertaining.
People are trying to get into an escape craft. They get in the escape craft. There's an alien egg. They get face huggered.
There's also a fully grown drone. But my question is, they go in a circle.
So wait, there's a drone and an egg.
No, the egg is in the actual escape pod.
So the escape pod has one egg in it,
and it was put there allegedly by the robot.
Yeah, the android.
Woman, the android.
The story doesn't make sense, but at the very least, this one had good visuals and stuff and some kills.
So the production quality was high, but the lore doesn't make any sense.
No, even lore-wise, it's fine. It's just not that great of a story.
Well, first off, what story? And I think a more appropriate title would have been Alien Noise.
Yeah.
It was
loud noises.
Can you hold on to a shot for more than 3 frames, please?
Okay, that wasn't a big problem.
Hold on, like Jason Bourne, shaky cam?
No, this wasn't Jason Bourne or, God forbid, the final Resident Evil movie.
They filmed the movie in the strobe light.
You saw that?
Oh. Look, I was obligated to see that movie. More on that later. Anyways, the worst part about the...
Not literally, Jeff. I see your face.
Oh, dude. Fucking... Because I can see the shots from the original Alien in my mind and what Ridley Scott was doing. Because he cam-opped that whole thing himself. And his DP was basically second camera operator. Mm-hmm. So you have director and the DP with the cameras on their shoulders. Most of it was shoulder cam. And the actors were just kind of figuring it out, and the movie worked. I mean, it's kind of like rolling the dice and winning the lottery, especially with sci-fi and something as heady as the Alien universe. But the shots that I'm thinking of when you said it was all strobe, that someone might try to duplicate and not do it effectively, is all of those tension shots where they're just with the shitty lighting and they're having conversations about what are we going to fucking do, and then they're running from the alien, and the lighting is, you know, like a car going under an overpass where you're just having to make the in Grip and Electric, it's like you put it on a C-stand and then you spin it around and it goes past the person's face and it looks like they're driving in a car with streetlights going over them. It has a strobing effect, and if somebody gets crazy in their filmmaking, let's just turn down a strobe light in the shot.
I think it makes it sound a lot worse than what it really was.
Okay.
I didn't find it that bad. Honestly, it was just...
It is not terrible.
Yeah.
What part of it was the harvest?
No, that's not Harvest. Wait, was it Harvest?
That was Harvest.
Was it?
What part of it was the harvest?
I guess the very ending?
What got harvested?
The humans?
All of them, so everybody died?
Yeah.
Hence me saying a more appropriate title would have been Alien Noise. Yeah.
You just made loud noises and that was it?
That's pretty much what the short was. It was a bunch of loud noises and flashy editing.
And there was
and there was a
in
xenomorph.
there.
And an egg. And a facehugger.
How did the egg xenomorph and facehugger look?
They look great.
Good.
Yeah, they were done very well.
Yeah. Again,
it's just...
Like, it's not a terrible short. It's just a very empty short.
Yeah. And at the very, like I said, at the very least, this one had great visuals going for it. The story was just, what? Because there's one scene where apparently they go in an entire circle, and then conveniently to their left or right or something like that, the escape pod was right there the whole time. So they made an unnecessary track around the entire space station, only to be like, oh yeah, we could have just gone here. It's like, what?
This whole thing... Okay, I'm going to wait to save that till you guys are done, because there's like 5 things trying to jump out of my mouth right now. It's just fucking...
It's a very weird sight.
Yeah.
Seeing 5 things trying to jump out of your mouth.
I was going to say, that sounds like a personal problem, man. You may want to get that checked out.
Well, when I swallow a facehugger, it doesn't actually gestate, you know.
It tries to escape.
It tries to escape because I have so much rage inside my body that it can't handle it.
Take that as you will, folks.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, I'm a Red Lantern. Be quiet.
No.
Yeah.
That should be a podcast. So what color lantern are you today?
Oh, red motherfucker always.
Zach, what color lantern are you?
Red. That's the only good one.
What about me?
You're a color that hasn't been discovered yet.
Cool.
Moving on.
Yeah.
So
then the
last one.
Final one, Alien Alone.
It was a very interesting one.
How is that not a porno title? Ow!
Wait, so you think it's a porn title?
Mark and I looked at each other, and all I'm hearing is that, what was it? It's not a Green Day song, but like an Offspring song from back in the day. I'm just all by myself. No, what was it? Yeah.
Yep.
Or the masturbation songs, Alien Alone. So an alien xenomorph is jerking off somewhere. What are we talking about?
Well, you're half right.
Oh, that's terrible.
I don't want to be half right at all.
So the story about this one, a synthetic is alone on a ship, and I guess this one is allowed to have feelings, which
you don't know it's a synthetic at first.
Yeah. So
they actually revealed this. They slowly revealed the information, and it was done in an interesting way.
Yeah,
there were some hiccups in this story. Like, if anything, this is the longest of the shorts at 12 minutes.
Yeah, this one also had Bill Paxton's son in it, so of course that one was going to be given more time.
But if anything, I wish it had more time. Like, it was interesting because it's like, okay, like, this goes back to the first short where there was that one woman in the first short after the chest burster came out, and she's like, "Don't kill it; it's beautiful," or something like that. We had no idea if she was a synthetic or if she was an actual human.
She was just a character that was there.
But that's something that feels like one of the synthetics would do in the series. This one actually took that concept, and we actually got to see that beauty from the point of view of a synthetic, and that's what I felt this one did really well.
Yeah, so
I'm interested in that. I mean,
Yeah.
that piques my interest. It seems like a good story idea and something you could run with.
yeah, so pretty much,
I would say it's
facehuggers can't do shit to the synthetics. They're giant. They're robots and they're mechanical. They can't just.
And
They
that's
have no digestive system,
and that's
so
how
it
you
doesn't
find
matter.
out the character is synthetic. You think it's just somebody alone waiting for rescue on an escape pod, and then there's of course the lab that she doesn't have access to on the ship. But then finally the computer lets her get into it. There's an alien egg. Facehugger jumps out, but it doesn't do anything. So that's how you find out that the character is a synthetic. Until then, you think it's just a regular human.
The facehugger actually breaks her arm, which is how you see it's a synthetic. The white ooze starts coming out, and you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then pretty much it's just this synthetic alone on a ship for God only knows how long with this facehugger, and yeah.
Stuff.
It was interesting.
It was interesting. It was done very well. It did something different with the series, and yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't horror, but it was good.
Ugh.
I'm just like, all right, I can live with that. You know,
It was a good one to go out.
considering some of the pieces we got, especially episodes 2 and 3, I'm like,
Hoy.
I'll take that, sure. Yeah. You know, it seems like somebody actually put some effort into this one.
All right, gentlemen. I think Jeff is about to explode, so I gotta let him,
Okay,
let him
so-
go a little bit. About...
So for our team, and I'll own all of this, and I was kind of point for our submission. We submitted for this project. Our company website was not live at the time, and it's one of the reasons I think our submission didn't get taken seriously. Our website is live now. You can go www.goluckystudios.com. You can kind of look at some of the stuff we've done. We've been heavy in PR and marketing. Some of the short films that we've shot are going to be put together and previewed later this year. We're just going to put some horror shorts together, and some of our content will be in there.
Brendan will put a link below.
When it's up, yeah, Living Nightmare will obviously have that because it's all the guys in the room that have been a part of that since, Mark's been around since the early days of GoLucky Studios. So that's something that will come full circle. But I saw this contest was sent to me by a friend. They said, hey, check this out. You should totally submit to this. So we all got together, slapped together a script from something we were already writing and submitted it. And I'm pretty confident that the reason our submission didn't get taken seriously was not because of the story, but because of our perceived pedigree. My film credits go back roughly 13 years, but not enough of it was what they were looking for, I guess. And, Mary's go back, my partner Mary, hers go back about 7 or 8 years. And it just wasn't enough. I looked at some of the other companies and some of the other people. Some people have full feature films under their belt. Some have several. Some have commercials that you've seen on TV. So the people with the really strong submissions were indies in the big indie sense, not independent filmmakers as in grassroots independent filmmakers. These were people who have worked with bigger budgets, people who have... There's a company that 20th Century Fox has done work with that they actually recruited to round out the submissions. After all the submission period was done, these guys actually submitted late, or they were reached out to by Fox for their submission, and they got added to the queue. As it said in the contest rules on Tongle, when the contest was originally announced, it said in a little disclaimer, 20th Century Fox basically reserves the right to change the rules at any time. And it was part of the thing you were agreeing to, is that basically Fox is going to do whatever they want, and we're going to let them do it because we're Tongle and they're Fox. So in between the time that the contest was announced and now, Fox was purchased by Disney. 4,000 studio executives across the board were fired between now and then, including Richard Plepler at HBO, who basically created the modern version of HBO. We have Game of Thrones because of him. We have Westworld because of him. And his second in command, they both left HBO. So if those two guys that created modern HBO are gone, what do you think has happened at Fox in the meantime? Which kind of is sad for this project, because it's in a reassessment phase. So who knows what any of this means. So we almost may have dodged a bullet, because we would have put all this time, effort, and energy into it. It would be something great for our reel, for sure. And I hope that the filmmakers who made it this far are actually getting some of the attention they deserve and are actually getting to be able to work the town, so to speak, in Los Angeles and do something with this, because that's a really rough position to be in. I was live streaming as we were getting the contest results in, and it was pretty rough. I mean, we had a lot of good support from our local friends and stuff in Chicago, and people rooting for us and whatnot. As you saw in the live stream, people were talking to us, and it was good. And then I heard from a lot of people afterwards. But it's the kind of thing where there was a lot of strange things in the first round that showed up, where they were violating the rules of the universe. People were violating the rules of the contest. And again, Tongle said, Fox has the right to do whatever they want. There were things that came in that were so far off the rules that Zach would be like, he'd reach out to me and go, dude, what is going on? This doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, it's the line I told you about in the contract. Fox can do whatever they want. They're just kind of throwing it on the wall and is seeing what sticks. What I think this came from is somebody at 20th Century was like, we need to expand what is going on with the Alien universe, because like the last 2 or 3 movies have not worked the way the first 2 did. If you look at Alien and Aliens, that's never been duplicated in terms of box office. It's never been duplicated in terms of fan experience, and those are the 2 movies that really everybody that's a fan of the franchise and the universe is referencing those 2 movies. Look at the directors who directed that. Ridley Scott and James Cameron. Okay, I don't even know who directed the 3rd one.
David Fincher.
Oh, David Fincher.
It was
Okay.
his first movie, but of course we all know the behind-the-scenes drama that happened on that one.
Right.
So even though it's his first movie, a lot of people really consider 7 to be his first movie, even though
Right.
7 was his second one.
So the point is from the David Fincher Aliens, it's gone downhill, arguably, of course, but it's not the same universe. I remember seeing Aliens and being like, oh my god, I want to be a fucking space marine. And I was like, why didn't they nuke it from orbit? You should have just nuked it from orbit. Oh my god, you're so stupid. The scene where they set up the auto turrets in the hallway and they ran out of bullets because there were so many xenomorphs. Like, I was in. And I'm not a massive horror person. For me, Aliens is not even a horror movie. It's a sci-fi space adventure. Mm-hmm. If there's evil bug things in space, they're not going to be cool and nice, and you're not going to get a chance. It's not going to be like Starship Troopers. You know what I mean? Do you want to live forever? Yeah, I'm from Rio de Janeiro. It's fucking...
Would you like to know more?
Yeah, right.
I would. Rico's up next!
It's not going to be that. It's going to be like, oh my god, this thing's blood's made out of acid because it's cultivated on a planet where that makes sense. And there's a methane atmosphere. That Alien to me practically is more evolutionarily makes more sense than the random space bugs hurling giant, I don't know, meteor turds from sure. how that's even possible. The logic there is just whatever.
Sure.
Yeah,
sure. It's Starship Troopers. There is no logic.
So Jeff, the one thing I really wanted to hear from you, and I know that a lot of people wanted to hear as well, can you kind of go into a little bit more detail about the process and some of the rules and how you found out? And I know there's
So contest submission rules vary depending on what film contest you're submitting for. But there was a lot of stuff that's like, and I'm not looking at it, I'm just pulling this from memory. There's a lot of stuff that was like, here's the rules of the universe, and you can only go and use things from the first 2 Alien movies.
Okay.
Yes.
So they
could only reference them. You actually couldn't take or like they.
You literally couldn't talk about any if it was from they are only 20th Century Fox only considers Alien and Aliens canon. As far as they're concerned at the studio, everything else doesn't exist. That lets you know what the actual box office versus budget has been if Fox themselves are saying this. Now this is mid or pre-Disney acquisition, so we have no idea what's going to happen to the universe right now. Again, 4,000 plus executives laid off, or
I've heard more.
Yeah,
I've heard it's been closer to 5,000.
I heard 6 was the last thing I heard was 6, and it's going up as people begin to vacate the space. because basically they're merging several studios. You've got Fox Searchlight, you've got a bunch of subsidiaries, and now you have 2,700 people doing the same fucking job, and Disney already has infrastructure. Do we swear on this podcast?
Oh, hell yeah.
Nobody gives a fiddler's fuck, man. Come on.
And then it's Fiddler's Fart, but okay.
No, fuck.
It's like that Simpsons moment, Bart on the news. This was a really crappy camp. Can I say crappy on TV? On this network you can.
Yeah. Fucking Fox. Anyway, so
You are watching Fox.
Right.
Fox.
Now you're watching Disney Fox.
Ooh. Except they never.
don't foxes eat mice?
Oh.
It's
How
gonna
the
be that weird fox mouse hybrid.
and actually
It's some sort of weird furry thing that I don't understand. Good luck with that.
and actually Disney didn't buy Fox News division because even they have standards.
No, the Securities Exchange Commission wouldn't let them do it.
Did they actually make a full?
That's
accusation?
part of that's part of the ruling is that 20th Century Fox can't own sports and they can't own news because then it violates monopoly and antitrust laws.
Interesting. Okay. Makes sense.
Disney already has a news division and they already have a sports division.
ESPN and ABC.
Right,
Yeah.
so they literally can't own those sections. So those sections are for auction, for sale, or I'm sure they're already sold and somebody else has them.
The shit that Disney owns would astound you.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. So to answer your question, Mark, the way it worked is you had to be on canon, which was Alien and Aliens.
Okay.
And you couldn't violate the rules of that universe.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't do an Alien King, Queen hybrid. There was one of the submissions called Alien: A Love Story.
Yep.
And
I think we talked about that one last week.
Yeah.
Well, the amount of rage that in general came out, and if you go to the comments page on Tongle, I'm very vocal on there, but I'm trying to support people, but at the same time, I'm frustrated. I don't want to shit on other filmmakers for any reason, but there's some of the stuff that I just had some real serious questions about in the decision-making process of what was selected. And then the Tongo guys had their hands full trying to keep Fox happy at the same time, not trying to alienate their fan base. And if you're any aspiring filmmakers out there, Tongo can be a great resource for paid work. And there's a scale of stuff there. Don't be afraid to submit, because if you're submitting, then you at least exist. And one of our biggest issues as filmmakers is that we don't exist. I'm a filmmaker. Well, prove it. Where's your proof? And it's why feature films are so important, and having that anywhere in your back catalog. Well, I've shot 27 pilots. Have you done a feature? It's like, it's great that you've done a bunch of spec pilots, but have you done a feature? If you've done a feature and then you go do a pilot that has a little more strength, especially if it's gotten distribution. So I think that's part of what our hamstring was. Our concept was Alien. What do we call it? I can't remember the title now. It was Praetorian.
Yeah. Alien
Praetorian. And Zach was helping me with my lore and staying on point. And I basically did we did a bunch of miners investigating a colony. They discovered this, or they're like scavengers. They weren't miners, they were scavengers, and they had found this abandoned colony. And their crew chief basically wasn't really a crew chief. She was a bounty hunter who knew that the xenomorphs were there and was using the rest of the scavengers as bait to draw the queen out. And we don't see the conclusion of that because we didn't have enough time, but we see the setup before the big fight. So there's all this tension, and we had some really cool reveals where the landing craft that these guys discovered, they're like, why is there a military-grade scout ship here that's empty with all the weapons intact? And then we cut to a scene where underneath the ship, a queen unrolls her head. And it's like, that's kind of the final shot, is that the ship that they're all in is getting surrounded, and our crew chief steps into mech armor, and they're like, where the fuck did that, what's going on? And she says, don't worry, bait, or some smart-ass line, and it's about to be this free-for-all kind of thing. In all transparency, that crew chief character, or captain character, I forget what her rank was kind of modeled after Samus Aran, so... yeah, Mark knows why I'm talking about that. But that was kind of our concept, and I felt like it would be fun, if nothing else, and we had kind of created an environment and a universe that Zach on the hardcore lore part was really happy with. Or at least, I don't know, were you really happy with that?
I was really looking forward to do this. But no.
So
we got Alien Night Shift.
so anyways, so part of the submission process is you had to come up with a script in a short amount of time. You submitted the script, and then you had to submit all of your above-the-line crew members, so your director, your gaffer, your DP, your editor, and links to any finished work that they had done. So you couldn't submit reels. You had to submit complete projects, which is something I've seen studios do before, or executives. They don't want to see your reel because someone's reel can be made to look really sexy, and then the projects are garbage, and you get there on the day, and the director or the DP or the editor or whatever doesn't know what they're doing. Which, if they cut together a sneaky reel out of garbage, you kind of think the editor would be good, but this is just things I've seen happen. So yeah, that's kind of it. It says, so you stuck within those guidelines, and then you waited, and then they had this whole submission process that's kind of terrifying and exciting at the same time. But again, I strongly recommend Tongo to people. It is going to get frustrating, but just keep submitting. And, keep shooting, which is always the answer, just like the fish says, just keep shooting.
Yeah, that's the best you probably can do.
Yeah.
We can. You know what? I didn't hear. I heard these guys talk about it, but if you can give a brief opinion about, have you seen the shorts or did you avoid them?
I haven't watched any of them yet. I'm nervous to get into it because I feel like it's gonna piss me off. Any mistake I see, anything that's less than what we would have done, is gonna be really infuriating. And I'm the COO of one company. I'm going to be the CEO of a new company by the end of the year. Yeah. Like my plate's full, and I can't afford to have a nervous breakdown in the middle of that.
Well, that's important. And actually, the one thing I will say though, for everybody listening out, you've all seen our first episode. The standard of quality that we have on Living Nightmare is no different than the gentleman to my right. He is all about standard of quality when it comes to anything he works on. It really is all about making sure we have the best possible product out there, so everyone is a part of it. All of the cast, crew, executive staff is all very proud of what they're doing. There's a reason why all four of us in here are friends. Is we have similar desires. We're huge cinephiles. We make each other laugh, but also
Zach is doing a friendship dance, which, if you know Zach, is pretty cheesy. The guy's about knives and blood, and then okay, there we go. There's the knife,
and then there's the knife, and there's the knife.
Let me see that real quick, Zach. I'm going to tell them the story. So Zach got this new alien queen.
Queen?
It's not a queen.
Motherfucker, that's a warrior. Get it right.
Warrior. I don't know. For some reason, when you showed it to me online, I thought it was a queen. Oh well.
Queen has the bigger flanges on either side.
You're killing me, Brandon. You're killing me.
Okay, so Zach got this new Terminator letter opener.
All right, that's it.
No, Zach, put the knife down. Come on.
So it's this letter opener. God.
Put it away.
Okay.
People are gonna listen to this thing.
So anyway, I promise we're all best friends. I promise.
Oh my god.
What I was gonna say before I was interrupted about the thing is that yes, we all have insanely odd senses of humor.
Yeah.
We're massive cinephiles and fans, but we all have the same goal and aspiration, which is to put out good shit. I mean, that's.
I was gonna say putting out.
Just shoot it, baby. Shoot it.
So yeah. That being said, I think we can move on to next topic. We're gonna do our movie category of the day. Brandon, if you want to introduce that.
Underrated horror sequels.
Underrated horror sequels.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I've got a few to talk about, but
God.
I'm curious what you guys can come up with.
I have one, and it's not going to be a shock to anybody in this circle. Is going to be Scream 2.
Okay.
Well, that just implies that Scream is good to begin with.
Oh, shut up, Zach. Scream is excellent. Fuck you, man.
I have a movie on my list of underrated sequels that is in the Scream series, but it's not 2.
Really?
Because I actually think 2 is well regarded enough, in my mind, at least in my experiences talking to people. I don't think Scream 2 is dumped on enough to be considered underrated.
Well, okay, fair enough. I mean, I've heard mixed things about it and everything else, and I have mixed opinions about it to be honest. But I do really, really enjoy it, and I think, I guess so. I can see that. I agree to an extent.
So define this a little bit better, because you're saying underrated horror sequels. Technically, Terminator 2 is a horror sequel.
Okay.
But that movie was not underrated.
Right.
Everybody loves it.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So that's not an underrated horror sequel, but nobody considers Terminator 2 horror, even though Terminator, when it came out, the original one, was a horror film. Piranha 2, by contrast, and yes, I'm tying the James Cameron bit together, garbage horror sequel.
Yes.
But what's our
I think if we start listing some, we'll kind of get the idea where
we're talking classic horror, we're talking slasher horror.
Any kind of horror.
Just horror in general.
And of course, we're always kind of, we're always kind of loosey-goosey casual over here.
I think Predator 2 is super underrated.
Okay.
I'll agree to that, but again, I just never looked at Predator as a horror movie. Like, I love the Predators. There's only one Predator movie I don't like, and that was the recent one.
He's literally saying this, and I'm looking at a bunch of Predator masks in the room here.
And there's a giant Predator mural in the back.
Predator skull upon skull behind me.
And then my bookshelf over there.
Yeah, there's more Predator
alien
stuff.
Skull.
Yeah.
That's
Anyways,
some personal Predator 2 reference. He has an alien skull on the wall.
Yeah, Zach's Predator fan card is super intact. But I think that one's underrated.
Exactly.
The mic barely picked that up.
I'll
do it
in
into
post.
the microphone before the... Yeah, there you go.
Better.
Oh, that caught it. That's good.
So anyway, continue.
So the point is, I'm a huge Predator 2 fan in terms of... Because I like future stuff. I'm big into that. Oh, God. I don't want to talk about it. Blade Runner era stuff. Or that cyberpunk, but I'm not dystopian future all the fucking time. It's the dystopian part of the future just drives me nuts. But anyways, that whole thing I thought was entertaining and fun, and they took a lot of risks. And then the end where they kind of show that the Predators have been doing this.
Across the galaxy,
but across time. I mean, he literally gives him a flintlock pistol and is basically like, "Yeah, bitch, we'll be back." That establishes some core things for the Predator universe.
And then, of course, the xenomorph skull on the wall, which drove me up the fucking... I'm like, oh my God!
So, yeah, that was the first thing that connected both universes, was that film. And then if you look at all the other skulls on the wall, there's some shit on the wall that, to me, was scarier than xenomorphs.
Oh, absolutely. You got the giant beast skull and all that.
There was multiple giant beasts. The one thing that looked like a fucking crocodile, what was that? It's just... So there's all this other stuff that could happen in the Predators universe.
Was a Yalgoy. You hunted in the AVP, RTS game. It's fucking awesome.
So, anyways, that whole episode to me was exciting. And it was kind of like they referenced the Schwarzenegger movie. I think the tech thing is always a problem in Predator for me, because they're not using... anytime there's space movies or science fiction movies and they deal with humans versus anything, they almost never get it right with the tech we have right now. It's like there's weapons we have now that could defeat whatever the aliens are coming after us with. And Brandon is famous for telling me all the time when I get military nitpicky about things, especially if it's any kind of warfare combat stuff. I get really anal about it. Like, Brandon's like, the movie has to happen. It's like, it has to happen, but do your fucking research. Pay attention to the details. James Cameron, when he's making Avatar, there's a bunch of shit that's right there. There's a bunch of shit that follows. This is exactly how they do it. They'd gather intel. They'd figure out the weaknesses. Okay, they have a political component. They have to consider all that. Okay, let's gas them. Gas didn't work. Okay, we're switching to fucking heat rounds. Gas them out. Give them a chance to get out of there. Now we're taking the tree down so we can mine. But the commander sitting in the biggest, safest thing calling out orders. All those mechs they have, well, that's practically applicable, and it's not high concept. I mean, it is high concept in terms of, developing things in military grade, but if you look at the exosuits that are experimental right now, what James Cameron did is he just followed that trend and went with the thinking, the logic behind that. He's also from a family of engineers and had studied engineering himself. So in a practical sense, that's what he's doing, which is I have a family member that worked for the Department of Defense and is currently employed at NASA, and I consulted on a project with him years ago, and it's one of the things that is part of how you submit something to the U.S. government is you have to have every step of construction from beginning to end thought of, and you have to have how would this actually work. You can't just have a great idea and not have all of the steps. And so there's things called high concept. High concept is most of what science fiction is because the steps in between there's logic gaps or there's practical engineering gaps that exist usually. So my issue is these fantasy films don't even use the practical low concept things that would fix that. It's like, oh, well, it's got this and it's got this, right? But a fucking JDAM is designed to go through something like that, and if I'm thinking of Starship Troopers again. It's just like the weapons they had there. It's like, what? Like, this is the future, and we're still using weapons from fucking the 80s? I don't understand. And then at the end of the movie, we've got better weapons. Would you like to know more? And they basically stuck an RPG in the end of the rifle. And I'm like, in the future, we're rediscovering RPGs. You guys fucking suck. like this is the fucking dumbest thing I've ever fucking seen. And we're gonna have bubble armor to take on the, it's just Jeff, we've got this poofy cotton armor. We're gonna attack spiky xenomorphs with.
So what you're saying hang on. Your next underrated sequel is Starship Troopers 2.
That's been made. Starship Troopers is all the way into 6 or 7.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, we're all very aware.
Oh, I'm very aware.
One of them kind of like, everything's like, everybody loves a good porno. That's the feeling you have.
Oh, man. Have you seen the third one? Or
have you seen the fourth one?
That's an animated movie.
The animated one actually was better, and it was more practical, and they actually had exosuits that made sense.
I was going to say, the fourth animated movie was good. The fifth one was... okay, that's a thing.
There was a show years ago that got canceled called Space Above and Beyond that took Space Marines a little bit differently. So far, nothing is even close to Warhammer 40k, so when I say Space Marines, I never mean that, because that is a whole different level of fan geekdom, and I can talk about that for 5 or 6 hours. I'm a huge 40k fan, so yeah, we're not talking about those Space Marines. But this Space Above and Beyond was done well in the sense that they did a lot of practical physics, a lot of practical weaponry, and they were really honest with it, but people weren't connected to the story because Lord of the Rings hadn't happened yet. So,
nice.
So I know that's a big jump, but
yeah.
There's a lot of people that you talk to, and they'll say, well, I just don't get sci-fi or fantasy or anything that's not real. I just can't understand.
No, you just watch shit sci-fi or horror.
It's like, well, you just never read when you were a kid, and you never had to think creatively for any reason, and you just kind of knuckle drag through your life, so that's fine.
Did I ever tell you guys about the interview that Doug Liman did with John Krasinski after Krasinski directed Quiet Place? So he was talking about how he's never been a horror fan, but here he is directing a horror movie.
Right.
And so he started watching a whole bunch of horror movies, and of course there were ones he didn't like, but he started finding ones that he did like.
The last year for me and what you guys have been trying to get me to do. Yeah.
He realized, it's not that I don't like horror, it's that I just haven't found the horror movies that connect with me yet. Right.
Which is what you guys don't know is Brandon and Zach and Mark, to some lesser extent, have been preaching this at me for the last couple of years.
And I got it from them. Don't.
Yeah. That's why I said from Mark Zach. From a lesser extent.
Which you've actually known me for less than a year. In fact, today, April 29th, the day we're recording this is actually 1 year to the day since I signed off of working on cruise ships.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Hey, congrats, man!
Hey. Happy anniversary!
That was a
Brandon.
very tragic day for me.
Why?
Because I actually had to move.
That was a fucking great day for you because I was helping you move. Don't even start that shit.
You were smiling and laughing. And
like you were fucking... Zach was exercising demons when that was happening, and not the kind of demons he likes. I don't know. He'll get into that mythology later, I'm sure.
The other ones.
Yeah, the bad ones.
We're going to leave.
We're gonna leave that one alone.
Yeah.
You
But
guys just said a lot of things.
you know, though,
That's something.
It is opposed to other things. I actually love the quote by Wes Craven, who said, "You can have, within the realm of horror, you can explore any issue. You're just gonna have it jump out and grab you every 15 minutes." But I mean, you can really take that and you can explore any emotional issue, story issue, within the context fair. And actually, we talked about, horror movies are really good at exercising themes in the most literal possible way.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that's more effective. I learned that really well in Society. More than just listen to our other podcasts.
Episode 2, Body Horror.
The episode 2, please check it out because I go on a fucking rant for about 15 minutes all about Society.
The day Mark was traumatized.
Oh, no, not as much as Wes.
He had a complete mental breakdown here in the apartment.
He will never look at an asshole the same again.
Not that I do that on a regular basis.
He will never look at an ass. Now wait a minute, I worked on the William S. Burroughs project. I know about Naked Lunch and the Talking Asshole with Peter Weller. What the fuck are you talking about?
Have you seen this movie?
Nope.
Society.
He hasn't.
Oh my, Jeff. Oh my God.
This is worse than a disembodied anus talking to Peter Weller in a car.
I'm gonna go get the Blu-ray artwork.
Almost. There's literally a scene.
Nope.
Oh,
Don't say it. I kind of want him to see it.
Yeah, you gotta see it. It's one of those things you have to see. I'm sorry, I can't even get into detail about it. You have to see it, and then you
There's
can rant
no
about
amount of words that can explain what... Brandon, don't even show him the box art. Just hold off.
Really?
Yes.
Show him the box art.
No. It has to be a complete... He can't see this coming. Go away.
No.
I can't even read that.
Yeah. Anyway.
So
I mean, Brennan, what was the quote that was written on the stage door?
Okay.
When they were filming the climactic in more than ways than one scene.
So the climax of the movie,
Literally.
Always the one.
I believe it was shot over like 3 days, and the director posted a sign on the outside of the door to the soundstage, and that sign read, "Abandon all hope, ye who enter here."
really?
Look,
Yes.
I've seen Wes freak out before. This was the most entertaining freak out I've ever seen in my life.
Just so you guys know, when Wes freaks out, it's bizarre and fun.
Take it down.
And I will say this, he is good at what he does.
Wes is one of the best people. He's reliable. He's talented. He's just Wes.
Yeah,
And
and he
if
was
you don't know him,
for me for a shoot this past weekend, and he was a freaking rock star.
you know you can trust him. You know he's going to work the whole time. He loves film. He loves what he does.
Just don't insult Marvel.
We did talk about his freak out when we talked about Society on the previous episode. But
You guys are so offended. That's super
it really
funny.
was a otherworldly experience. And Zach saw the movie for the first time the same time Wes saw it. I didn't even tell them what I was showing.
I was desensitized. I just thought it was fucking hilarious. It just
So
him
wait a
freaking
minute.
out was even funny.
Wes worked on this movie?
No.
No, because it was done in the late 80s. We literally just
Shot in
watched the movie.
89. No, wait.
Shot in 88,
Okay.
released in America in 92.
So you're saying this is a trash can of a film?
No.
I like it.
Yeah, it's actually a good film. It just
But no,
has...
what I'm saying is...
It just shows a butthole?
No.
Don't say anything.
You just have...
Brandon, no.
Am I lying?
No, you're not lying.
So you go in a butthole?
So
No.
the basic premise of this movie is
I can't believe I'm on a podcast and we're talking about theoretical buttholes.
Dude, we talked about a comic called Come In Me, alright? We hold no bounds.
dude.
That's not what it was called, Zach.
What was it called?
Come inside me.
No.
Either way.
That's not what it was either.
What is
What's
it
this
called?
fucking show about?
It was...
We have a good time.
It was called Come Into Me.
Big fucking difference.
Yeah, I don't know how that's different.
Well, that one guy had the song "Crash Into Me," which basically means the same thing, and he just didn't say "Come into me" because he couldn't, because it wouldn't have sold as well. But
No, and I
think
described
it
that
would've
comment
sold
to you
better.
guys, and you said it sounded interesting.
We both thought you had a porn comic until
Dude, if
you
you look-
actually brought into an explanation about what it was.
Here's the thing: if you read the title and look at the cover, this is some weird, fucked up porn shit right here.
It does. It looks like it.
you know what all of this sounds like? It sounds like what Chasing Amy wishes it could have been.
Shots fired at Kevin Smith.
I'm gonna.
Oh man, if we can, like, I've got so much shit to say to Kevin Smith. First of all, would you let someone else talk? Have you ever seen that guy try to have a conversation with somebody? Holy crap.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I talk a lot, but Jesus Christ.
it is something. I'm almost concerned. Like
I am concerned. I'm sure his wife hits him.
well, oh my god. No wonder.
Although after he had the heart attack, like, his whole perspective has gotten different, and he seems to be much chiller. Like, life is way more serious. All the Wayne Gretzky philosophy stuff. I'm actually a huge Kevin Smith fan, as not just a person but a filmmaker. He's the first one to acknowledge that if he tried to be what he is now, he would make it. Like, Clerks would have meant nothing in the modern landscape of a short film. Like, people have done the equivalent of that show now, and it's lost in the film ether. He knows he won the lottery. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that the guy stayed humble even with all the success he's had, and he's still out there trying to earn it. And he's in a weird spot, too, because Harvey Weinstein was his mentor and is now public enemy #1 in Hollywood. And now Kevin Smith, what's Kevin Smith going to do? You know, the Weinsteins made him, and now he's fucked.
At the end of the day, he's still my favorite comedy director. He did Jay and Silent Bob, which is my favorite fucking comedy movie of all time. Clerks 1 and 2.
He did
Mallrats,
fucking Tusk.
Tusk was terrible.
I like Tusk.
Yeah, but he had the balls to do that kind of movie. I mean, Kevin Smith takes
What
a lot
movie?
of risks. I don't know. I didn't actually see Tusk. But
I liked it.
Where was the story, Brandon?
The story was about a guy who wanted to turn another guy into a walrus.
That's not a story.
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't.
He had a goal. He
A24
achieved
doesn't give you a story, Brandon.
Anyway, we can go on like 3 rants about clear. So I thought, and also too, just back on our topic of
Right,
conversation
so-
about your.
So the night that I showed West Society, it was Halloween.
I was just going to talk about underrated horror sequels. But
right.
we're going to go back to society.
okay, yeah.
But no, just to wrap up that story real quick. So I invited Wes and Zach over. It was Halloween night. I didn't tell them what I was showing them. I just already had it in the Blu-ray player. I just hit play. And, just Wes's freak out was amazing. Look up episode 2 of our podcast for the full story. And Jeff, I hope to be showing you this movie sometime in the near future.
I would absolutely love to do some sort of event where Wes and myself and maybe even Mary and we're all in the same room and we record it and that kind of thing. Because when Wes goes on a rant about something, it's fantastic. It's one of the best things. It's like, Conan, what is best in life? Well, Wes is ranting.
Yeah. There's something to be said about that.
Zach, what is your underrated horror sequel?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
So we're gonna.
This is the guy who sits and edits on his machine and will literally chant like while he's editing. He chants at his computer that's themed in red and talks about it raining in blood all the time, and he doesn't know anything about this. Like, you haven't thought about it.
Most underrated.
Really?
Underrated. So we don't. All right. So
I guess Jaws the Revenge.
Oh God.
There you go.
He always does.
You
this
can't
to me.
make fun of me for mine now.
Jaws the Revenge is the world's greatest Christmas movie, okay?
No, Zach, we've been through this. The world's greatest Christmas movie is Die Hard.
No,
Believe
Die
me.
Hard is for fucking basics.
Fucking Christmas movie.
Fuck you, man. It is a Christmas movie. I will argue with you and my father over this. It is the greatest Christmas movie ever.
No,
It's
Jaws
an
the
action
Revenge is the
film
greatest Christmas
set-
movie ever.
At the time time of Christmas.
It is a Christmas, therefore a Christmas movie. It is an action Christmas movie.
Just like Jaws is set during the event.
Except that it's not themed for Christmas. There's no Christmas theme. Christmas movies have a Christmas theme.
But it would absolutely not exist if it wasn't on Christmas. The plot would cease to function properly if it was not on Christmas.
Let's be real honest. The plot with fucking Die Hard, the entire franchise, is a bit of a stretch. So what you're calling plot and sticking to as your sticking point is kind of yeah, right. And
either way, ladies and gentlemen, Jaws of Revenge is the best Christmas movie. Yeah, just saying.
Okay.
Thank you.
Why do you consider Jaws the Revenge underrated, though?
Because everybody hated it for some reason.
But why do you like it?
Because it was cheesy, awesome, and I got to see a shark kill things. Even if it was a very shitty mechanical shark, which was recently... some guy went in and digitally designed all the scenes with a realistic CGI shark, and the movie actually looks really good now. Yeah, it's actually kind of fucking awesome.
All I have to say
person.
to that is you just like sharks killing things. Hoshima.
What?
Shut up. Nobody's gonna understand that, Jeff.
Hoshima.
I would like some context here.
So
Meg
did I.
interviews.
I finally saw the Meg, by the way. Did you see the Meg?
Yeah,
We
it was
saw the
fucking
Meg
terrible.
overnight.
Oh, but I thought it's just sharks killing things.
Yeah, but here's the thing: you actually saw blood in this movie.
Yeah. like.
Also, it's Jaws.
I read the fucking book.
The book was phenomenal.
The book was like, it made me a bigger fan of Jaws. Like I've actually swam with sharks. Zach swam with sharks.
Even if it was only for 3 seconds.
I'm the only asshole.
Yeah. Mary has swam with sharks, not intentionally.
Okay, it's not confirmed. That could have easily been a dolphin.
I don't think that was a dolphin, bro.
The way she described it, it sounded like a dolphin.
If we have Mary on the podcast, we will have her tell her story.
Yeah, that story. Well, she does take a long time to tell stories, so that would be great. It would eat up minutes.
Well, she was,
Yeah. That's definitely context.
No dead air.
Yeah, there would be.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Mary story time with our host, Mary. She will have a nice, soothing voice story for you.
Mouse burger voice.
Never mind. Nope. Nope. That's a hard nope, sir.
That's
hey, Mark, how's
fun.
the weather?
Nope. And actually, you know what? That shit works all the time. It's so effective. Anyway.
Yeah, there's a lot of inside jokes happening right now. They're saying nopes because anytime Mary and I get into a conversation that's a to B partner couple conversation, it gets heated.
Yeah.
Mark goes nope, gets up and walks out of the room. He literally says the word nope really loud and walks out of the room. And then Zach says, "Hey, Mark, how's the weather?" Because Zach can't help but poke the bear.
And then I poke back.
And then it completely distracts from whatever Mary and I are talking about, and we both are like, okay. So neither one of us is like we're not actually mad. We're just intent. We're both Leos, and so we sound like Leos when we get into something, and that tends to.
We've broken up quite a few fights just by doing that.
They're not fights. They're just discussions.
Loud discussions. It's either that or oh, Mama, Dad, I hate it when you fight.
That's all it is. It's often we're the boss of it and we're figuring stuff out. So everybody that's in the room is like, wait, what are they talking about? Is it something bad? It's like, no, it's not something bad. I'm just really loud. I have a look, and you can't see me through the podcast where
Just use telepathy, Jeff.
Well, I have a look the way my face is and stuff. If I have any kind of negative expression, I look serial killer-ish is what I've been told. I look like a kind of look like a maniac.
So you fit right in
with the group. Yeah, like
so much.
So I have this not nice guy look to me, and I'm not a small dude, so it's kind of like some people get afraid easy if I get upset. At least I've been told this numerous times by my wife, who's 5'2", and she was like, "You can't get mad." And I'm like, okay. I'm like, but I'm not as big as my friends. Like my buddy Freddie is 6'7". I'm not that big. But it's big enough. What are you doing? Oh God. Now see, Zach's not going to smile. So.
I mean, I have no idea what's going on.
No.
Mark's trying to create reference for what I just said.
Yes, I am.
Did you have the heat on in here?
It is a scotch. It's scotch warm in here. The
Well, Mark, you're wearing a fucking sweater.
it's my awesome white boy Mr. Rogers sweater.
It is a Mr. Oh, the Mr. Rogers documentary, by the way.
Oh, awesome!
Cannot recommend. You saw it.
Oh, fantastic!
That
Fantastic.
changed the way.
Zach, turn the heat off.
Such a good dude.
Not Zach, Mr. Rogers.
Oh!
It's true.
Fucking do it. I got a knife too, bitch. It's just gonna throw it.
Really? Don't make me go Joe Pesci. I will go casino on you.
It's okay, little guy.
Oh! Fuck you. So Mark is like level 10,000 Italian.
You almost went there too. You almost went country.
I don't know. I don't know where my accent was going right there.
No.
But
Finish it.
He's like Northern Italy, so he's blonde hair, blue-eyed guy, but super Italian.
And then my father's very, very Italian looking.
His dad is also super Italian. Like it's super and mega Italian. Chicago classic Italian. Hey, you know, 2 tree.
And Jeff is basically Italian.
I've been adopted Italian into like 5 different families in this city.
Mine included.
Yeah, Mark's included, and then you know, there's like, I was told by a Teamster the other day. I said, well, you know, I'm half Portuguese. He's like, oh, so Italian West. I'm like, you know that Portugal's nowhere near Italy. He's like, yeah, it's the same thing, but a little bit of Spanish. Okay. You know, no say.
Dude, Italian people are so matter of fact.
It's like Italian light. It's some kind of Italian.
That's what it is. But it's
Like,
God.
okay.
And then and also, Papa Cowboy's pretty much adopted the whole fucking group.
Yeah, right.
Fun stuff.
Okay, so the underrated movie
sequels.
Did you do
we
yours,
are
Mark?
a podcast.
I did do mine, and
sometimes,
actually, I probably will add in Scream 4.
I was about to mention that one.
A lot of people shit on that movie. I thought it was really enjoyable, and funny enough, the same feeling I had when I was watching the first Scream, I had when I was watching this Scream. I was like, who is it?
That's a pretty high recommendation because the second one I was done. I was like, oh, okay, so this is just going to be a turd they keep making, and I'm out.
Like,
You made it to the second one?
I made it to the second one.
Oh wow!
Like
I'm
the first
surprised.
one
I enjoyed the
is
second
horror
one.
movies in general. The second one is about sequels. Third one is about trilogies. The fourth one's about remakes and reboots. And the way that it tackles it is really interesting because you do have this new character who's like the new Sidney Prescott, but you also have the original Sidney Prescott there as well. So it's just doing like sort of that reboot handoff thing before that became a thing in movies these days, but it's not really doing that. It's still a proper continuation of Scream.
The thing for me with Scream is that the ending was so... the ending pissed me off. Like I felt like the opening with Drew Barrymore was super strong, and then like the part where Rose McGowan gets killed, after that I was like, that's how you killed her? All of this tension and you kill her in a garage door and it's Rose McGowan. Fuck you guys, I'm done. I'm out.
You know what though? That is my least favorite kill of the entire movie.
It's like it was a garbage kill, and then the other guy stabs the other guy. Oh, we researched. Well, you can stab each other anywhere in the abdomen, you dipshit. That's like, well, you can stab somebody kind of in the liver, and they can fucking. If you go to a fucking hospital.
Jeff is the hardest person to have disposition of disbelief. Like,
why don't you tell him about zombies, Jeff?
Why?
Why would you do that? Don't do that. Don't poke the bear.
I have a I have a really quick summation of zombies are basically a necromancer's garbage throwaway character, and they decided to build a whole genre of horror around it, which is just bad science stacked on bad storytelling, stacked on bad mechanics, and people are all about it. But like, what would you do if there was a... No. I said, I'd wait 11 days until cellular respiration expired and all the zombies fell over dead, you dumbass. That's what I would do. What do you mean, what would I do? Nothing. I would fucking have a Coke and a smile and shut the fuck up. Like the dumbest shit ever.
Okay, not that type of podcast, guys.
Well, I'm just saying that the way that cells work, the way that cytology works, magic. Okay, if you give me magic, we're talking Army of Darkness zombies, or we're talking about Evil Dead zombies. That's different. We're talking about necromancy. I can actually buy that more. But the science zombies and the levels, well, they actually explain it because the military underestimated. It's like, you don't know shit about the military, and you're saying that they would have underestimated zombies to the level that the zombies would have been able to overrun them. These are slow zombies in the book that everyone wants to fucking reference. Where the military takes on a big wave of zombies and doesn't figure out that fucking the way your cells are fed, you would just starve the zombies and it would be over. I mean, it's not... how are they eating? How are they staying? How is the fuel working? Has anyone ever fucking... Mitochondria. Oh my god. I'm sorry.
Basic biology, folks.
It's basic fucking... I mean, you learn this shit in high school and you're going to tell me, oh, we engineered a special oh, shut the fuck up. Brandon's just smiling because he's going to say, the movie has to happen, Jeff.
You have no evidence to support that.
I have no evidence to support that you're going to say that, or that scientifically there's volumes in universities full of evidence.
The first one.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of data points and trends to assume
like, oh
he's
my
going to
God.
say that.
Yeah, but see, that's why everyone got mad at Zach when he brought up zombies, is because I can't help this. It drives me crazy.
It's like a tick with him. It's
okay.
Now skeletons. I mean, anything is better than the food.
hold on.
I just can't stand the show The Fucking Walking Dead. And yes, I know, I worked with Vincent Gonzalez, who was the AD on the Walking Dead series. Why would you be on that show and walk past prison guards in full fucking body armor? Zombies transfer the fucking virus, or they kill you by skin contact, and there's body armor. I'm not going to put any of it on, and I'm just going to walk around in a halter top. Shut the fuck up. I've got a crossbow because it still runs out of bullets, dickhead. Pick up a fucking gun like a man, you little turd.
Dude, hold on. All right.
I was in Veritas. I have it written on the side of my dick.
Okay, all right.
So
we need to move on to our next topic now, guys. All right.
Setting motorcycles on fire in a zombie apocalypse.
No. I'm talking about, we got to just move away from the zombies topic.
Okay. See, that's your fault.
No, I know. Now for our next topic. Can you explain the difference between a universe and a galaxy?
Fuck you, Zach. You know what? Hold on.
Okay. I'm going to reference Twitch here. Everyone go check out Skyless on Twitch, and her friends that work in the physics community will explain to you how ridiculous it is to make the comparisons to, a third of the sentient life in the universe. You can't even conceive of that. It's... Oh my god!
Everybody has.
I'm not gonna. That's a fucking full hour rant right there.
So in case you guys didn't know, every single one of us in this group has our thing.
Trigger points.
Has our trigger points.
All of us have ADD that can't stand.
That can't stand. This is true. Mine is my rant on Max Payne.
Zach's is anything associated with Ridley Scott, which we've mentioned several times. Why don't you explain to us how? Boop, boop,
I already did in the last podcast.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So this demon's been exercised.
I did get him, at least I think, somewhat to at least understand that Prometheus is almost heaven next to Alien Covenant.
No, it's not.
Why? Both of you are assholes. Both of you. For that, for what you did there, and then what you just did there.
Mark, when he says there, he's pointing at Jeff.
Yeah, yes.
And he's talking about the galaxy thing.
Yeah, there's just some things that you just don't do.
You gotta come with a trigger warning.
Do not mention Max Payne, the movie.
Ooh, fucking. All right, quick thing with that.
This is no longer a horror podcast, just so you know.
No, it's a very fast thing and everything else. I'm a massive fan of the video game. what they did with the movie is a total fucking abomination. A total abomination. They fucked up the plot. They fucked up the whole story about the drugs. They just fucked up the general story and the flow of everything. And I don't know. End of rant. End of rant. Back to horror movie sequels. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming.
And I'm just real quick. I'm looking at what else the director of Max Payne has done.
Jesus Christ!
And I am.
We got some winners here, don't we?
Ooh. So he did Behind Enemy Lines.
No, that's an okay.
He did the Flight of the Phoenix remake.
That's not so good.
Hell?
He did the remake of The Omen.
That's really bad.
He did A Good Day to Die Hard.
But wait a minute, did he do all of this before or after?
Most of that was after.
Well, that's why he did all that stuff. Okay, no, wait a minute.
So
you can't get mad at him for the stuff that he did after Max Payne, because if the studio considered if they gave him Max Payne and they didn't like him...
The only one that was after Max Payne was Good Day to Die Hard. Everything else was before.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Wow. So then that is
yeah,
that's not good.
Yeah, that's the nail in the coffin there, isn't it?
Because if it's after, then it's punishment for Max Payne. If it's before, then it's a bad studio choice.
Yeah. And the order it went was Behind Enemy Lines, Fly the Phoenix, Omen, Max Payne, Good Day to Die Hard.
I didn't hate Behind Enemy Lines.
Actually, he has one good movie in there. It's
and
behind
that's his first one.
It's Behind Enemy Lines, and actually, it's not bad.
Yeah.
At all. It's a pretty good movie. So anyway, back to your horror movie sequels that are underrated.
Alright, so probably my most underrated horror sequel is a little movie called Halloween 3 Season of the Witch.
Oh, for the love of all things unholy.
Oh, God.
I liked it.
Yeah, we know you did.
I know. It's actually my favorite of the Halloween movies.
To be fair, that's not a hard... the Halloween movies.
It's like The Hills Have Eyes 27. We're just going to do more monster rape in a different situation.
And I really liked... So it's the one that doesn't have Michael Myers in it, infamously so. In fact, when the movie was about to be released, the director, Tommy Lee Wallace, was trying to convince the studio to take the Halloween name off of it because he knew people would be expecting Michael Myers and that would negatively affect the movie. So it's kind of that catch-22 thing where it's like the Halloween name got the movie made, but the Halloween name is also what trashed it upon its initial release. For what they tried to do with it, I think they did succeed. So John Carpenter, after killing off Michael Myers in Halloween 2, which John Carpenter hated writing Halloween 2. He did not want to bring Michael Myers back at all, ever. He actually wanted the Halloween series to be with each succeeding movie to be its own separate Halloween themed story.
So it's a different thing completely. It's
Yes.
almost like
Final Fantasy.
Tales from the Crypt. So it's a
Yeah.
different. If it's a different thing every time.
It's an
Exactly.
anthology.
He wanted to turn Halloween into an anthology. They wanted a Michael Myers sequel. That's what brought about Halloween 2. Of course, he killed off Michael Myers then. So then that's just like, okay, you can do your... Well, at the time, he was dead,
Yeah.
Zach. So, yeah, they let him do whatever he wants. So he wrote Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Eventually, there was another writer that built upon that, and then Tommy Lee Wallace also built upon that. I can't remember what resulted in it, but basically Tommy Lee Wallace ended up being the sole credited writer. But John Carpenter was a writer for it.
Did you see the last one?
Yes.
Yeah.
What did you?
It was good.
was
I
good.
very much enjoyed it.
I was pleasantly surprised.
It
enjoyed
had
it.
one stupid moment, maybe two.
It had one stupid moment and a
Really
few moments that
stupid
just
moments.
didn't quite...
Because the promos, I actually wanted to see it, and I'm not a fan of Halloween, and I was looking at that. It's like, oh, that's cool.
It
was
is
good.
Because
by
it was
far the
very
best.
Silence of the Lambs-ish to me.
A
It
few
was by far
missteps
the
here
best
and there.
Halloween movie.
Yeah.
A few logic gaps that I still... But overall, I'd give it like... It was a very solid...
8 out of 10?
It's a solid 8 for me.
8, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'd actually put it a little bit more of an 8.5, and it's just for Jamie's performance. She did a fantastic.
Well, of course she's going to give a fantastic performance.
The thing is Jamie Lee Curtis has been underrated for years because she did all those horror movies, and it was all... She was the big boobs girl. She's what... Jamie Lee Curtis is now what Shannon Elizabeth is. Or has been.
Which she didn't show her tits until Trading Places.
Right.
And everything else. I know this because of Scream, actually. Because they're literally a line in the movie.
Right, which is interesting because you look at what
Jamie Lee Curtis has tried to do with her career. You look at Shannon Elizabeth, and it's an interesting, even though Shannon Elizabeth didn't start in horror, it's that interesting career path where the female acting stereotype stuff is still very much, it follows the same kinds of rules.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't go away just because of Me Too. Why doesn't Shannon Elizabeth get work as much as she should? She can't act. How do we know? What role is she not getting? You know, is that a Me Too kind of thing? What's the deal there? You know, there's all these actresses, again, Rose McGowan, who just fucking, they seem like they're on a trajectory and then poof, gone. Why? The girl from Transformers, who was the blonde-haired Australian chick.
From the third one?
From the first one.
First one.
Way past Fourier transfers, and you got to keep that whole mouth-brain thing in check or you're off the team. You know, remember she's the one that discovers the NORAD's getting hacked or something like that.
I honestly haven't seen the first one since it was out in theaters.
Well, nobody remembers her because everyone's focused on Megan Fox, and she's now the best friend in Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
But literally, there's this massive gap. Like, what happened to her? Why did Megan Fox blow up and she didn't blow up? You know, her acting chops were better than Megan's on that show. What was the problem? You know, and it's just a random observation. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about. You're talking about Jamie Lee Curtis and how well she did, and it's like, why isn't she a bigger deal? You know, what did she do that made her career be where it is and not somewhere else? I mean, not everybody can be Meryl Streep. Okay, great. Isn't there another tier underneath that where some of these other actresses can kind of be, and why aren't they there? You know, I always wonder about that shit. Like, it's what's going on that there's all these different levels. Somebody explained to me once, well, it's the agents. The agents brokering deals with the studios. If she switched agencies or somebody in that relationship screwed other things up, and it's why people are assigned to be in movies, and it's got nothing to do with the art, and it's got nothing to do with the business either. It's just relationship politics always gets in the way. And there we go. Conversation killed again.
No.
It's at least 3.
No, that's actually interesting, and actually that gives me an idea for what my question is going to be. But Brendan, do you have any other sequels that you want to?
Well, I just want to finish up with Halloween 3 real quick.
Go ahead.
So yeah, John Carpenter wanted to turn the series into its own anthology series, and I think Halloween 3 was done pretty well. If anything, out of the first 3 Halloween movies, it's the one that looks most like a Halloween movie.
Yeah.
Like, Halloween really has nothing to do with the first 2 movies, other than that's when it's taking place at. Whereas Halloween 3 is just drenched in Halloween imagery, in the feel of Halloween. I love Tom Atkins as the main character, because this was made at a time when it's like the main characters in horror movies are bratty teens. He's a freaking alcoholic, divorced dad who's trying to uncover this conspiracy that's been described as the makers as witchcraft comes into the computer age, and it's just really interesting. It is, of course, goofy at times. The low budget adds to its charm, but yeah, I like the character in it. I like the imagery of it. It's a very one-of-a-kind horror movie. Like, there's really nothing else like it, and I wish more movies took risks like this movie did.
And this goes with an aesthetic theme that Brandon has, I think, where you specifically like the flawed character.
Yeah.
You connect with that flawed character when you're watching a story get told. If the main protagonist is a flawed hero, preacher, for instance.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like that whole, rest in peace.
One more season.
Yeah, that's it.
One more season.
And because
That's all it needs.
And because of The Walking Dead, we have to wait for that, and also Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I'm not happy about at all.
But yeah, some other underrated horror sequels. I really like Psycho 2. I don't know if any of you guys have seen that one.
I have
but
not.
It's 22 years after the original Psycho. Norman Bates is released from the mental institution, and it's basically him trying to put his life back together. But then weird things start happening around town, and so there's this question of, is it Norman? Is it not Norman? Is it somebody trying to frame Norman? Is it somebody that's trying to make Norman go crazy again? Like, it's a really good mystery, and it's a really cool character study, too, of this person who's murdered people and has essentially been mentally rehabilitated, and he's trying to put his life back together. Yeah, I really like Psycho 2. Friday the 13th Part 3, I think, is a pretty underrated horror sequel.
Really?
I think it's
You
underrated.
would say it's underrated?
I would say it's underrated.
I disagree, but all right.
I just remember Zach's been bringing me through the Friday the 13th series because of the major horror franchises. That's the only one that I haven't seen all the movies. I'm at the point where 7 and 8 are the only two I have not seen now.
And they are two of the best. 7 is my favorite, personally. I love 7 to death.
3 might actually be my favorite upon this rewatch. Like, I used to say 6 was my favorite, but I don't know. Just something about us rewatching 3 now, just something about it just really resonated
Brandon,
with me.
Here's the thing. You didn't see Part 3 with 3D glasses before.
Yeah.
When you
And
see
this
it with
time we
3D
did.
glasses, it becomes a whole nother experience.
And you realize what shots work and what shots don't.
Oh, yes.
They just made me think of something. I heard last week that they're rebooting Candyman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jordan
That's been
Peele
happening
is
for a while.
producing it.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it.
Original Candyman was filmed here. I mean, no, it was based here.
Yeah. I don't know if it was
and it was
filmed
Tony
here.
Todd.
Yeah.
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 Tony Todd.
Because it's all about Cabrini Green. The
Right.
so
I'm not sure that's a character you could replace with another actor, but
We'll see.
Well, Tony is still.
he can still do the role. I know damn well he can, but it's just, are they going to use him or just completely just go, bloop?
We shall see.
I hope they bring him
He's
back.
still ready to go too. Like
Because he was in a very poor, actually not poorly made movie, but it was just a wasted movie last year. What the hell was it? Hellfest?
Oh, yeah.
Such a wasted movie.
we got to hang out with him at C2E2 a few years ago.
Well, that was awesome.
Me and Mary were working a booth with him, Ernie Hudson, and Michael Massey, rest in peace, who were all in The Crow. And it was actually the 25th anniversary of The Crow. And so those guys were all together in the booth, and they were all worked on that movie, of course. And I was talking to Tony about Candyman, and he's signing Candyman posters and stuff, and he's like, yeah, I mean, I would love to keep going with that. The fans are here. It's interesting to see the fan bases of all of the shows that those guys are known for. Michael Massey, of course, he was the last big film that people might recognize. He was Fun Boy in The Crow, and he's actually the person who he shot Brandon Lee. He had the gun, and it was the scene where he jumps into the bedroom window, and Fun Boy shoots him and says, "Don't you ever fucking die."
Mm-hmm.
And that is right when Brandon Lee did die. And Michael talked about that stuff, and now Michael has since passed, but he was supposed to be given an entire character and a whole thing in the Spider-Man universe. He was going to be one of the main bad guys in Spider-Man, but the franchise got rebooted.
Yeah, and that's the Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, and
He was the guy in the shadows in the
Man in
end
the
of the
Shadows.
credits of the first Amazing Spider-Man.
actually fun.
And he had a bunch of stuff that he was telling us. They said they contacted him. The studio was calling him, and I was his handler on that thing. And so he's taking studio calls in the middle of signing autographs and stuff. And I had to be sure to. He actually was fluent in a bunch of different languages. Had been classically trained in theater, and so had Tony. So has Ernie Hudson, and all three of these guys had amazing stories. And they all wanted to work on movies together with each other, and it was like the bond between these three guys because of The Crow was incredible. And I got a sense from Tony specifically about Candyman that he's like, man, that could go, and I don't know why it hasn't been done more. He's like, you got to think about it. I'm the only African American bad guy at my level that's a horror character. And he's like, we could go that way more, and he's like, I just don't understand why it's not. You know, Tony, he's a really cool guy. I mean, he's humongous, but
he's a
good
cool
dude.
guy. He's a great actor, and the movies are phenomenal. I love
That
him.
Yeah,
first
he's easy to work
Candyman
with.
in particular was creepy.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first watched it, like I remember the first time I watched Candyman, it was on Amazon Prime. I was essentially living in my dorm room, so I was watching on my tiny laptop screen with my headphones on, and even then, at such a small screen, it was creeping me out.
And actually, and now that I was thinking about like one of the first movies I watched was The Rock.
Yeah.
You know, with Nicolas Cage, does you know how this shit works and everything? It's just like, do you know how this shit works? And pull out a fucking knife. And he's massive in that movie. Massive in that movie. Just built like a shit brick house. I love that movie. It's my favorite Michael Bay movie, and actually everybody's favorite Michael Bay movie.
So should I list off my final underrated sequels? And
Please.
Let's go.
Okay, so just covered Psycho 2, Friday the 13th 3. I really liked Final Destination 3, the one with the roller coaster.
The first 3 Final Destination movies were really fucking good.
For me, it's 1 and 3.
The first
You didn't like the second one?
The first one's
I
fantastic.
didn't really care for the second one.
Really?
Like, it's not bad, but it's just kind of, it's a shrug to me.
Oh, okay. I loved them.
Nothing more,
I
nothing
mean,
less.
the first one was great because it was such a
New idea.
a new idea,
Yeah.
an original concept.
Speaking of Tony Todd, he was in those movies.
Yeah, no,
too.
he was,
He was.
kind of the Oracle-like character, I guess you could say, in a way.
Sure.
Yeah.
He was Morpheus.
Kind
Sure.
of, but not really.
Yeah. We'll go with that.
Life begins with choice. Yeah. Did you choose to stay on that plane, or did you not choose to stay on that plane?
So, question for Final Destination 3, when you inevitably got it on DVD, did you get the interactive version or just...
I never had it on DVD, so I'm actually curious how that worked.
So, some people, no matter what you do, they still die.
Yeah.
Like the 2 girls in the sunbathing tubs. The choices for that were either they both fry in those things, or one of them falls out, dies on the glass, I remember correctly, while the other one fries to death. So that's that. For the guy who gets drilled in the back by the motor, either you save him in time, like he actually survives, or he still gets drilled by the motor. And then everybody else, it's just like, you know when that sign falls down at the guy in the end? Does he die on the left side, or does he die on the right side? There really was no... I'm just like, that's it? And then those are like the biggest choices. I think there was a few more, like you can save what's-her-name's sister. Like instead of, I don't know, that thing flying into her eye or whatever, I think you could save her, but I can't remember exactly. Well, yeah, I thought that was fun.
It's a neat idea. I mean, it sounds like the choices themselves leave a bit to be
You know,
desired,
it's the
but-
precursor to the interactive movies on PlayStation / Telltale. Oh wait, Telltale's gone.
Mark, did our phones have a baby? Like, where the fuck did another phone come from?
Yes, they did, Jeff.
Holy shit.
This is actually my other phone.
How many phones do you fucking have?
I actually have 3.
Look, he's nowhere near as bad as Matt is. All right.
I have one, this is my.
Stay on topic,
I think I
gentlemen.
fucking know a drug dealer that has less phones than this guy.
I have freaking 2 more movies on my list. We're
Oh,
almost
okay,
there,
sorry,
all
keep
right?
going, yeah.
So yeah, Final Destination 3 is a really fun one. Exorcist 3
I still need to
has some
freaking.
interesting
I
moments.
I need to
That's
watch the
never
rest of that. We need to fucking binge that at some point.
Yeah,
soon.
Exorcist 3 is a very...
Was that the comedy one?
No.
Which one did you say was so stupid it was hilarious?
2? 2 is so stupid it's stupid, and then there's the 2 versions of the prequel, which are just kind of baffling. But 3...
There's a prequel?
There's 2 versions of the prequel.
What year?
04 and 05.
Oh, God.
So what happened was they hired Paul Schrader to write and direct. They didn't like his version, so they completely scrapped the movie, hired Rennie Harlan to literally shoot an entirely new movie.
So they basically just Kevin Spacey them before the Kevin Spacey.
Ouch.
And so they released Exorcist the Beginning, directed by Rennie Harlan, got terrible reviews, so then they released the first version that was shot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's see how this goes out.
And it's not like, a few reshots here. No, they are 2 completely different productions.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's happened more than once.
I know. Good. Hollywood is just so good at wasting fucking money on stupid shit.
But no, Exodus 3 is, the plot itself isn't anything memorable, but it does have its moments of genuine creepiness. Particularly I don't want to give out spoilers because I do think it's worth as much of an
Again,
just
I do
okay
want
movie it
to. I do want
is.
to watch these movies at some point. So
Yeah, as
please
much of an
refrain.
okay movie that it is, I do think you should go in cold because of those moments. Like there is a moment of something on a ceiling, and just the way it was shot was really creepy. And then there's the hospital scene, which a lot of people consider to be the single greatest jump scare in movie history. Have you seen it, Jeff?
The single greatest jump scare in movie history is a big thing to say.
It's not my personal, but there are people that have called it that, and it is definitely up there.
I mean, what's the biggest jump scare anybody in this room can think of?
Dino Crisis.
I'm going to Jaws.
Really?
Wait, I mean, I don't remember any jumps. I mean, when the shark comes up and everything else.
I think he's talking about the head with the.
Oh yeah.
That's the only one I can think of.
You know
Because
it was
when
filmed in
they're-
a fucking pool.
Yeah, but the whole thing about Jaws was tension.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Dun. It's
Oh, yeah.
building up. You see it. Oh fuck! It's not a jump scare classic, but it's the first thing that jumps.
Yeah.
to
Well,
my
here's
head.
the thing. It's only because of the really loud shriek that comes in. It's not
Yeah.
even because of the head. Like if the shark actually came
But
out,
sound design is half of a movie.
yeah.
Especially a horror film.
Yeah,
So
no
okay,
shit.
so you're talking about this is the number one jump scare.
I don't know if I'd put it as my number one. I'm just saying other people, like if you read jump scare top 10 lists, like I believe Watch Mojo actually did crown it the number one jump scare in a horror movie.
Huh.
It's just a really well done movie. In fact, also on the Trailers from Hell YouTube channel, which is run by director Joe Dante, there was an episode where they had Josh Olson, the screenwriter of History of Violence, talk about Exorcist 3, and he also gave very high praise to the hospital scene of Exorcist 3. So yeah, Exorcist 3 is, overall it is just an okay movie, but it does have those couple moments of creepy genius.
Yeah.
We'll need to go through them at some point.
And then another one that I don't really want to spend much time on. My last one is Phantasm Ravager, which is just the big conclusion to the Phantasm series.
That's the thing with the little ball, right?
Yes, and actually, for a later episode, I do want to bring you guys through the Phantasm series, so I'm not going to say much about it, but it was a really fun conclusion to the series. And what I like about the Phantasm series as a whole is each sequel is completely different from the last movie. So it's not like a formulaic horror series where every sequel is just a copy of the original. Phantasm 2 is different from Phantasm. Phantasm 3 is different from Phantasm 2. Phantasm 4 is different from the first 3, and Phantasm 5 is different from the
I
first
know
4.
nothing about this except that when I was a kid, the box art for it, I would always look at the little ball, and my brother and I would play this game where we would take different things from. We used to call this paper games when I was a kid, but it's basically D&D is the structure. But you could take anything from anywhere and say, I want this thing or this thing or this thing. And I always took the ball from Phantasm and said, I have one of those, a telekinetically controlled ball with a fucking corkscrew in it. So that's that.
Drill your brains out.
Whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
why does he have a corkscrew and not just a fucking hammer? Or what's with the ball? Was that an anal bead that he just has put knives in? I don't know what it is.
Oh, we don't.
Oh,
no, Brandon, no.
but no, actually, the way that the silver ball came from is that was based off of something from the writer-director's dreams. And that is something that I do like about the series as a whole. It is a very dreamlike series. It's a very trippy series.
Same thing with James Cameron with Terminator.
Yeah, it's a very unique series, and it's...
Where did the
with
music come from? That's what I
with the exception of the second one, which was done by Universal, the entirety of the Phantasm series is an independent film series, and so the creators got to do it their way, and they got to finish it too over the course of multiple decades.
Huh. It's not quite as bad as... What was that fucking movie? Anaconda versus Lake Placid that we were fucking watching.
Oh, God.
That's my encouragement that if those guys could get funding and make a movie that got theatrical distribution, we have hope.
Dude, if the fuckers at Sharknado could get funding and
Yeah,
distribution...
but Sharknado is like a cheese thing. It's like the Rocky Horror Picture
Sharknado
Show.
was made by the Asylum, who made such hits as Alien vs. Hunter and Transmorphers. They just got lucky. Like, they were making crap long before Sharknado. Sharknado was just an unfortunate
Dude,
lottery.
it was like fucking what was that studio that made all the shit films? Canon, or like they made Superman 4.
Canon. That was
Yeah,
Canon.
yeah, Canon. Like literally, all they did was produce shit, and that was their mission. There's a whole documentary about it. Really highly recommend it and everything else. And literally, they figured out it's almost like the fucking producers. Like they figured out they could make more money with as long as they kept the fucking ball rolling.
Right.
And they before their film was released, they were already in production in the next one. If they kept the fucking ball rolling and everything else, they figured out they could keep making shit.
It's because film finance is so lopsided in how it's explained to financiers, how the studios control things. That whole mechanism is complicated unnecessarily, and there's these massive tax incentives from the federal government that basically mitigate all the risk, but nobody... Like, I've maybe run into 3 producers ever in my entire life that know about those tax credits. 3 ever. The other people will go, oh yeah, and they're all thinking about the state tax incentives, and I'm like, you guys know about the federal tax incentive that's been around since '96, and they're like, no, what's that one? And I'm like, you've got to be on drugs, right? You can type that into Google and it pops up. The section of legislation is cat. The cat just got really pissed at me.
The official Nightmares cat has spoken.
Yeah, yes, he has.
Yeah, he wants me to stop talking about film finance. That pisses him off.
No, it pisses you off, Jeff.
It does piss me off. It's because it's stupid that more films are not financed correctly, and then garbage gets financed, and it's like, what's the difference here? Oh, well, it has a proven model, and you'll see this film. It doesn't have a proven model. It's just garbage. A lot of times they're throwing crap on the wall, waiting for it to stick, because, like Mark said, they're making money somewhere else. They have a distribution contract they have to fulfill, so they're just putting something out because they already have distribution secured. So as long as they have a placeholder there, any money they make is profit, because the way the money has worked at that point, everyone's already made their cash back. So anything that makes a single dollar is now in the black. So it doesn't matter what it is. But instead of spending any kind of time finding a good film to put in that spot, they're going to have someone's cousin, sister's, uncle's roommate make a film because he's always wanted to do a feature where here you go. So they're passing around favors, and if you're not in that favor circle, oh well, they don't care because they've already made their money. You know, they need to make 4 films that are that are positive, good films to cover the 10 that they're going to make for this particular section of time or for this section of the budget. So the other 6 films can be anything. If they've gotten their 4 already for the year, then those other 6 are all gravy. They're all bonus. So that can, it can be this, it can be that, it can be this. And if you're not in that circle again, well, why am I going to finance your movie when I can finance my little brother's movie? Or you know, I can finance any one of our films. Why am I going to finance somebody's film that I don't know?
Nepotism.
It's so far beyond that. It's just laziness. It's a lack of desire to see quality films made because there's no financial motivation. And
all it takes is one venture capitalist that's a fan of film that figures the whole fucking thing out, and then the whole system collapses.
Well, I mean, one venture capitalist figures it out, and what you get is a studio, and then, you know, all of a sudden Disney shows up and takes over everything, and you know, all of a sudden Universal shows up in the 90s and takes over everything because they're backed by GE. Why? Because they figured this model out.
Even though, like, it's like only 1% of GE's budget.
Oh, it's not anymore. I mean, they sold it a long time ago.
It's a rounding error.
Yeah, right. It's literally they lost half of their trucks or something. I mean, it's nothing to their overhead. But you look at this whole thing, like, film finance is not scary. It's just unnecessarily convoluted. And it's getting less and less scary with the modern distribution channels that we have with digital.
It's even easier now.
Well, it's not. I don't know if it's easier, but it's not
convoluted.
Yeah, there's not as much bullshit in the way. But digital is only one window of distribution. There's 9 windows of distribution, at least. And you know, the life of a film, when you're putting it in perspective, is 10 years at least. So it's like, well, if it's 10 years, but really it's 100 years, because we're still watching films from the black and white era that are 100 years old.
Yeah.
You know, and those movies are technically still paying out a dividend. They're still paying out to the actors' families or estates that were in those films, depending on what the legal is. But there's still a financial life for those things. So technically, if you invested in that, you should be getting a little green envelope that's your residual check.
It's fucking. It's the. They asked Einstein one time, you know, is there a element of mathematics that you don't understand? He said, yes, compound interest.
Yeah.
Have no fucking idea. And that's what. That's also why he pretty much died broke. The
Compound interest and fucking what a derivative is.
Yeah. And the
or how people can get away with, well,
yeah, well, that's another
2008. That's a different podcast. You say that. Trigger warning.
You can just say 2008. Everyone
Yeah.
goes, oh my god, my 401k is gone. The
Alright, so question of the podcast.
you know what? I actually was, there's a lot of good ones I could do. Actually, you know what? Just as a good segue into talking about, because we talked about film, you know, everything else, and film finance, and we're obviously going to talk about film production. I would love, I'll keep my other one, I'm going to keep favorite horror movie deaths for next podcast. But I think because
spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert. I think because Jeff's here and everything, because he has a few. We're going to talk about personal, fun / crazy / weird or memorable experiences on set. Whether you got a crazy story, you know, bizarre situation. I'm challenging everyone. Everyone went, oh, there's so many to choose from. And I know there's a wealth of stories and knowledge here. You know, whether it's bad, good, indifferent, funny, you know, stressful. Because obviously we got a story to tell about our production, and I wanted to go tell some stories about it.
I'm gonna go with there are a lot of stories I've told you guys. And I actually was telling quite a few of them over this past weekend on a shoot, but I just remembered one that I haven't talked about at all with you guys. At least I don't think I have. So I'm going to tell you guys a new story coming from me. Story time. And it's it was just one of the most. So it was a 48-hour film festival. Shoot.
Hey everybody, those are hard.
Yeah, which I've talked about with you guys. The second 48-hour film festival that I did, which is infamously the only set where I've ever yelled at anybody. But the year before that, I was on a team, and so what happened was one of the actresses that was in my senior film. She was Facebook messaging me, and she asked, "Hey, I'm gonna join a 40-hour film festival team. Do you want to come with and join it too?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. It sounds like fun." And the team leader just didn't know what he was doing.
Yeah.
Like the way, like I remember the genre we got was sci-fi. And it's like he just couldn't decide on a story. He couldn't decide on how to use the object. Lines were cut from the script. Like the actress who brought me on, like I don't know why, but all of her character's lines were just cut. So she basically just became a featured extra.
Wow.
Food wasn't that good.
Wow, what a dick.
If you do that on a SAG show, there's massive consequences.
Yeah. We were filming at one of the actors' apartment, and it got to a point where
So this is a non-union show, then?
No. Because it was a 40-hour film festival.
Yeah. I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It got to a point where it's like there were multiple people yelling at him at some point. and I was just kind of falling asleep there because like I had nothing to do. But I also remember that one of the actors, and this was just one of so one of the actors, he was very much concerned with, so I want a kissing scene so I can put a kissing scene in my reel. I also want a scene where I'm handling guns because I want a gun scene for my reel. Like, he just kept requesting all this different stuff that he wanted specifically for his reel, and the team leader kept trying to accommodate all those things on top of everything we needed for the 40-hour film festival requirements.
Was the actor some kind of big deal, or did
No.
he? Why was the team leader kissing his ass so hard?
I don't know.
Ugh, exhausting.
But yeah, and of course I was and I'm doing the air quotes here, writer for that he assigned for this one. And it's like, I'm just making stuff up at this point. And of course, most of the stuff I wrote didn't even get put on screen. I don't even know if the final film got finished.
Oh, that's tough. That's always hard when that stuff happens.
In a world where dragons rule.
Like, I'm trying to remember specifics here. But I just remember that it was just a very frustrating experience. Like, it's easily the most frustrating experience I've had working with an actor, because he just wanted stuff added specifically for his reel. And oh yeah, I remember that with the gunshots, and I did see an edit of the finished. I don't know if it was a finished thing, but at least I saw a rough cut. But and Zach, you would be proud of this, the digital effects that were added for the bullet holes. So there are digital bullet holes in one of the actresses, and there are the same black bullet holes in the glass of the window.
Oh, brother.
Oh. And watch Zach have an aneurysm.
Well, that's not how that works.
That's not how the Force works.
That's not how a lot of things work, Jack.
I just can't fucking with that shit. So
on a scale of can't
I'm
you
guessing
even?
they were the same JPEG images.
Oh yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, like did they have square, like little white marks around the squares?
You know what though? And Brandon's, as you know, Brandon's a very, very nice guy. For the most part. But but he's actually I think the one story too, you can just add a little bit of it, is he actually held up stopped an entire set because of some of the director's choices of not.
Oh yes.
Yeah, which is actually my favorite story about it. If you ever have to know about Brandon's character, it's probably boiled down and definitely into this story right here.
Yeah,
this was actually the beginning of Brandon taking fellow crew members,
and that's
well-being
Brandon talking
seriously.
about himself
in the third person, which he does.
And I really have no rhyme or reason to when I do and do not talk about myself in the third person.
He just does it.
I mean, I'm sure there is, but we're not going to delve
into that psyche. Holy shit.
Yeah, there's no known reason. I'm sure there is some sort of psychological reason, but I don't know what it is.
To quote a friend of mine, nope.
But yeah, so how do I want to begin on this one? So this was shortly after I graduated. I'm just trying to remember all of the little details here that make at least the important details of the story. So it was shortly after I graduated. There was somebody that I was working with at the time that I no longer work with for obvious reasons, as you'll learn from this story. There are more reasons than this story.
I was going to say, among other reasons.
Yeah. He was going through what was called the acting and directing class, where the final of that class is you have to write and direct a 2-page scene that only has 2 actors.
Right.
You can't have 1 actor, you can't have 3 actors, you can't have 4 actors. It has to be 2 actors interacting with each other. And the only important thing about this script was there's a guy who is tied to a chair and he's unconscious, and the other character wakes him up by throwing a bucket of water on him. The rest of the script really doesn't matter for this story. We were filming out in the suburbs, so it's not like this was CTA train accessible.
Yeah, right.
So I was reliant on our friend Freddie for a ride. Everybody else is basically dependent on rides. So once you were there, you were kind of stuck there, unless you had a car, but of course you're more than likely somebody else's ride. So we were all stuck there. It was supposed to be a late afternoon shoot, ending a little after midnight. I think original wrap time was supposed to be like 1 o'clock in the morning. So we get there, and the way he directed was he didn't know how to schedule the shots. Okay? So, of course, if you're just doing standard coverage, you start with your wide, you go into your mediums, you go into your close-ups.
Right.
You just start wide and work your way
Start
in.
far away, work your way close to the subject.
Yeah. But of course, that would mean you need a wide encompassing the whole scene. Then, of course, eventually you'll need the close-ups of... So, like, Jeff, if you were talking to Zach, I would film your close-ups first, and then I would film Zach's close-ups first. So it's like, basically, it doesn't matter which order I shoot your close-ups. Basically, I would shoot all of your dialogue in one close-up.
And then you shoot the reverse, which
Yes.
is the other person. If it's 3 people in a conversation, you have to block that out accordingly, too.
Yes.
So if you're shooting this room and there's 4 people around the microphone, you would shoot half the room and then the other half of the room. And you would do punches and cut-ins to break that up.
Yes.
But I would shoot all of yours and Mark's punches and their extreme close-ups and
Yes.
whatever needs to happen
And of course, you want to
when
stay
we shoot
along...
this side of the room.
And of course, you want to stay along the same axis as you
Right,
move
you
in
don't want to
before
jump the line.
Yeah, and before you move on to the next axis that you want to get. He couldn't quite grasp the order and how to rearrange those shots.
Do you not have a first AD?
I don't remember if he did. I don't think he did. Keep in mind, this was almost 5 years ago.
Try not to skimp on your first AD, folks. The first and second AD saves your ass in these kind of situations, and they ask the questions you forget about.
Yep. As Mark points to himself. So he wasn't sure in what order to shoot. And so I tell him, the standard way to do this is to start wide and push in. And then I say sarcastically, because, I'm a humorous person, or you could just literally shoot every moment in the order it is in the script. And the look on his face was just like, we could do that? And I was like, no, I was saying a joke. That will waste a lot of time. I think we're going to do that. I was like, please no, but no.
How about a nice Kermit the Frog? I want a skull. Yep, I'm gonna go with a Kermit the Frog.
Oh my god.
It's his show. It's like I tried to tell him no, that's not how we should do it, but ultimately, that's how we did it.
Oh, that's just painful to think about.
Oh yeah. And then he wouldn't talk to his actors. Like so I was the DP for this, and what he would do.
I can't even okay. So I need to chime in here as the actor's perspective. I've been directed by two of the 3 other people in this room and everything else. Both have talked to me when I'm fucking acting, and I've always appreciated it. And actually, in some cases, privately when nobody else can hear. So you have to being an actor and all those future directors, you got to talk to us, man. You got to have dialogue with us, especially if you want to see something specific. The joke is we're performing circus monkeys, but you got to direct the performing circus monkey. You have to talk. You have to have a conversation, because otherwise, how the hell can we trust you and trust that you have a vision towards what you want to see?
Yeah.
So what happened was, while I'm trying to tell the people who are gripping and cam-opping for me and setting up the lights, while I'm trying to tell them what to do, he would literally just hover right over my shoulder, looking at the little monitor on the camera,
Brandon is standing up now and standing over Mark's shoulder, for example.
Just so Zach and Jeff can see what I mean. It was like he's literally just like this, just inches away from me while I'm trying to think. And I would tell him, "Go work with your actors while I'm setting up the lights." And he was like, "Oh no, I just like I like to let the actors do what they do." I can't remember his exact words, but it was just something like,
Mark's having an aneurysm.
Timothy Busfield, who you look up who that is, he was Poindexter in Revenge of the Nerds and has directed and executive produced tons of shows. I got to work with him on Mind Games, and he was very, very kind to me and spent time, I was a production assistant, but he was talking to me. He knew I wanted to create, and I said, I just want to take what's in my mind and make it a reality, whatever that means, writing, producing, directing. At the time, I didn't care. And he said, okay, I'm going to teach you how to direct. So him and Miguel, I'm going to Sapotnik. I can never fucking get Miguel's name right. Miguel, you'll know on the...
He directed Battle of the Bastards for Game of Thrones.
And both Miguel and Timothy Busfield worked on a show called Mind Games, which never... It got canceled after the 3rd episode, and I've heard it's on Hulu, but I don't have Hulu, so I haven't watched it. The show was incredible to work on, and we shot 13 episodes. I worked on the pilot, which was called Influence, which they should have left the name as Influence. The time slot in the marketing, I think, is what killed that show. But Christian Slater's in it, Steve Zahn's in it, a bunch of really great actors and actresses. It was a fun show. Jamie, she's going to kill me. Her and her husband just won an Oscar for the short film Skin. And Jamie was one of the actresses on that show. She was the primary love interest for Christian Slater. Anyways, Timothy Busfield pulled me aside in one of our times where we were talking, and he said, one of the things I don't want you to do is over-direct your talent. A lot of young directors, when they first get in, they're giving way too many notes. If you've prepped and you've rehearsed correctly and the actor's a professional, they're going to be ready. Give them slight adjustments. Your job is to protect the actor and their performance, not act for them or overdo it, because you're going to confuse them, you're going to do too much. Being heavy-handed is a big mistake. He said, that said, if you see something, you're nudging, you're gently guiding them, and you want to make it so you can trust them. And he taught me relational directing, which is you find something about, you get to know that actor, even if it's a TV show, you don't often have a lot of time with them.
Yeah.
So you have to get to know them really quick, or use generic or general things that make them think about something. I always try to find something specific. Like when I give Mark an adjustment, it's always something that I know from him personally. In Pastor's Plight, I had to talk to the actress Stephanie Garvin, and I used a specific element from her past, a tragedy, to inspire a certain kind of pain in her final death scene. And I don't know if we got the shot, but she definitely gave the performance. Watching the performance, and I didn't have a monitor, so I just all I had to go off was what I was seeing, and I was hoping the camera was getting it because we didn't have a monitor, which is a huge rookie mistake and something I won't ever do again. But it's the kind of thing where her performance on the day was dead on, and I was able to get that out of her because I had a relational direction to give her. Had I not given her that that note, she wouldn't have gone into a different frame of mind, and she probably would have given me an unpredictable performance every take. Mm-hmm. And we did that whole sequence several times, and each take was a little bit different, but I got what I wanted. And so both things are true. You need to give your actor or actress, whatever term, the talent has to have direction, and they also have room to breathe, and it's a balance between the two. If the director doesn't know how to do that, and they're just swimming and they're just lost,
my feeling is,
I often blame the producers for that, because it's a producer's job to protect the show, and it's a producer's job also to protect the director.
Yeah.
If the director is having a hard time, the producer needs to be able to, and a lot of times the DP and the director will be a team, and you'll see teams, these creative teams that protect each other.
Right.
And so they'll come, like when I shoot with Brandon, if Brandon sees something or thinks of something that's creative, we have a relationship where he can say that to me.
Yeah.
The same with
And
Zach
I have
and Mark.
Same relationship with Zach, and that's what I like about
Yeah.
working with the two of you as directors, and hopefully soon Mark is a director pretty soon.
Oh, that's cool.
Stepping into for episode 3.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Very good.
Potentially, hopefully,
Congratulations.
episode 3.
Well, hopefully
it's going to be one of the upcoming episodes.
Yes.
We don't know which number it's going to be.
I'm just waiting for Mark to be
Um,
like James Cameron, where it's like, no, you can't do it like this.
But
Hunter, more intense.
I've done narrative, and Jeff, you and I haven't really done
Narrative
much
together,
narrative.
yeah.
We haven't done narrative together yet. So this is going to more go towards Zach right now, but I imagine you're going to be a similar way when we do finally do narrative together. But Zach will adjust his actor. He will talk to his actors about performances. They will have a dialogue. He has dialogue with me. He hears their creative input. He hears my creative input. And it's his directing isn't, it has to be done this way. It's like, let's figure out together what the best way to bring about this is. Zach, does that sound about right?
I would say for at least a Living Nightmares project, yes. If it was my own personal project, like when I finally start 777, I'm going to be less. I will still take creative feedback and everything, but for the most part, I know what I want for that series. So
But
it really just depends on the
But
project.
on the contrast of that, you will communicate
Yes,
what you want.
I will always communicate. I will always hear
What
what you
I-
have to say, but it really just depends on the project.
But you will communicate what you want. What I
Yes.
don't like is
I have
when,
to say, I've acted for Zach as a director, acting for another director, and Zach has acted himself. There's an easy dialogue where I'm asking him, "Do you need this? Do you need that?" And then I help him give me the adjustment because I know where I've sat in his chair before, and he sat in my chair. But the conversation with Zach is easy.
Right.
And you're exactly right. That's
what
he
I don't
does.
like, though, are directors who don't communicate. Their idea of directing is, oh, I'm the director. I'm going to let the DP do whatever he wants. I'm going to let the actors do whatever they want. I'm going to let sound do whatever they want.
You're a negligent parent.
Yeah, it's like you're not a director. You're somebody that just wants the credit.
Okay.
You're not looking, at that point, you're not looking for the crew that will give you the best. I found that directors who do that, it's crew to them aren't people that will excel their project to greatness. It's crew to them are people that they can blame when they decide something isn't working that they did themselves.
And that's unfortunate because actually, you know what, Jeff, you said it the best, and actually I'm really glad you said it because I've thought this and I've never actually said it out loud. When I've served as executive producer on this last one, and then the one before it, I was kind of a couple different things, but especially this last one, I really was almost solely the executive producer. All I did was protect them, and protect both of them and what was going on, and handle logistics. And when it was time for me to step in as executive producer to make a decision with them, who are also the executive producers, but they were filling in other roles, we were able to easily make a decision as a team, and then I was able to step away from it. And and I'll get into the story later about the other thing that I had to do as an executive producer. But I made Zach feel comfortable with the logistics of the situation. What happens if a neighbor comes out and comes to talk to us? Well, I'll go and take care of that. What happens if the cops come? What happens if I was like, Zach, I got that. I got all that. That's my.
I had my own thing I added whenever somebody walked onto
Yeah,
our
yeah,
set.
well, yeah, and then our marketing guy came into effect, but he marketed the shit out of it, and he yelled at us for not doing it, which I understood. But I never actually heard anybody say that out loud, and I'm glad that you did, because that's how I felt. I protected them. I added in creative when it needed to be. I even directed second unit at one point. I'm hoping I get the credit for it. And
No, I'm gonna give it to Brandon.
and it's okay. I have no ego towards it, but and it just felt natural to do that. Nobody told me to do that. I just did it. It was nice to be told.
But
to
yeah,
set up.
so anyway, he would always be over my shoulder for these shots, and he wouldn't work with his actors. But what he would also do is have lights rearranged without telling me. Yeah. And this was before I was even said I was done lighting. And then there was a light that was moved between shots that I wasn't aware of either.
Play the clip from Christian Bale, please.
Audio professional. Audio professional.
No, that should be a soundbite for the show. Like you can just Zach, you should have a queued up thing of sound bites that you can play when the show's going, so you can just click those. That's got to be one of them.
Oh yeah, that has to be.
So
one
anyway,
of
the last 2 points.
You can have a bunch of sound effects. I think that would be
the last
great.
2 major points on this, and I can't remember in what order this happened. What I think it was we were about to approach mealtime, but we were still on a setup, and we decided as a crew that we'd rather finish this shot first before we eat. So, it's like let's finish this shot first, eat, and then we'll come back and then we start the next shot, so that we're not like, we're gonna just kind of get a few takes of this shot, or get one take of the shot, eat, and then do the last 2 takes. It was like, let's just finish the thing we started. And I can't remember how it devolved into this, but essentially somehow it became an hour after scheduled mealtime. And I think the next point that I'm going to be talking about was probably happening at the same time as this. I don't quite remember that. But essentially it got to the point where I had to say, I am not pressing record for you again until you get these people some food.
Yeah.
And he did eventually order. He did have to order the pizzas at that point. So it's not like we had pizzas coming at that point. It was, I'm not recording for you until you get these people some food. Then he orders. And then, of course, it's like, okay, what do we do while we wait for the pizzas? Well, we're going to keep working because...
Where was his producer?
This is a student project.
He doesn't have one.
So here's one of the things. So I don't know how many times I've run into this. Like, I don't have a number in my head, but it happens a lot. So when you're starting out, almost everybody wants to direct. And if you're taking on the role of director and you don't have a producer, put effort into doing things like getting a producer, which means you go and grab one of your friends and you explain to them how to do the job. Joshua Kulik, the person that got me into film, had myself and a kid named Roy Garcia produce for him on different shows. Probably the first 10 short film things I did. I acted in most of them, or I helped Josh write them. I came in as a writer originally, and then he said, hey, go stand in front of the camera because you're interesting. And I was like, okay. And we did it. And it's the kind of thing where everything was raw and we were learning as we went. And Josh did a lot of the heavy parts of producing, or a lot of the pre-production stuff. And he would bring in different guys from our little group. Every once in a while you'll see me wear a shirt that says 5-0 Entertainment, and that was the company. So it's just a cluster of friends that got together, kind of like what you guys are doing. But you had somebody in that universe who it was their job to watch everything else while Josh was directing. It wasn't up to him to handle that, so he's not getting 500 questions at once on set, so then he forgets things like time.
Yeah. The
producer and the first AD handle that around the director and the cinematographer. The director and the DP, along with the script supervisor or the writer, they are worried about creative. The production is a loose term that means business side, or nuts and bolts of getting the job done side of a film set, is something that gets neglected on indies all the time because, everyone has to wear multiple hats. Robert Rodriguez is famous for doing this and doing it well, but he also has a good producer's IQ, and he has people around him that are very good at what they do. The Williams brothers are famous for doing the same kind of things. They wrote a book about film finance and making features and stuff. That's one of the things that if there's young starting filmmakers on this, go to a friend that wants to get into film and have them produce your short with you so that you're not alone. I happen to have my spouse that does that. It's something that's huge to have that extra help.
And does it well.
Yeah, well, and the person, whoever you pick, is going to get better with time, just like you're going to get better at directing or whatever it is you want to do as you're creating something. And if you want to produce, go offer your services to somebody you know that's directing, somebody that's just doing stuff or trying to do stuff where they're stuck. Go help them. If it's no pay, so what? Get your feet wet. And it's the kind of thing that what this guy really needed was a strong AD and a strong producer, and none of that would have happened. Mm-hmm. That's all avoidable. And it's on his shoulders because he's the director, and it's definitely his fault. But if he would have had better support, that never would have happened. Because they wouldn't have let it happen. They would have said, wait a minute, you can't do that because of this, this, and this. And he would have gone, oh. Instead of having these, oh shit, aha moments on set where he's completely neurotic and panicked and in 50 different directions emotionally at once and making serious errors in judgment, he's going to have a support team that's going to help him not be stupid. Directing myself, I've done stupid shit, not because I'm trying to be stupid, but because my brain is in other places other than, right. Yeah, Zach's making a motion of taking his brain in chunks and putting putting it in different jars all around him, and I think that's really accurate. We're set stories from the set. We have Brandon's.
Yeah.
And I do have one last point on this story. So, as I mentioned, it is a script where somebody's unconscious in a chair and a bucket of water is thrown on him. He could not decide what angle he wanted that to be shown. So he literally had me and the camera go around the garage, all four walls, all four corners, shoot like 2 or 3 takes from each angle. And this is in like October, November, in a garage.
And I go back to the AD producer team. The ADs have to have a shot list to build the schedule from. So he would have been saved by his first and second AD. They would have saved him from that, and the producer would have demanded those things from the first and second AD. That little team right there saves the director from that indecision, because now he has to make a decision because they're saying, well, we need this paperwork ahead of time.
Yeah.
And it really helps the director get solidified because you have infinite number of options, and until you're forced to make a choice. This is the thing about creative producing that I love, actually, is that you get to help somebody like that. And if you understand the creative side of film, even though you're on the business side, you're kind of doing that process with them. You're helping them and supporting them and like, hey, buddy, what is it that you're trying to do here? I'm trying to go from this, this, and this. Okay, we're sitting next to the DP. Where's the line at, DP, if we shoot from here? Oh, it's here. Okay, so this is the field you have to play in. You're helping this person make choices by just kind of setting up the stage. And you're suggesting, let's just take this half of the room, just for the sake of argument. Follow me here, buddy. And so you're directing the director by managing his expectations and going on this journey with that person. Then they start to build a framework more, especially if they're nervous.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then that whole thing happens. And I've seen that happen where a first AD will pull that performance out of a director with the producer. And I've watched, and this happens on big professional levels. This happens sometimes. Zack Snyder's wife is his producer. Ian Bryce is Michael Bay's producer. And Ian Bryce, let's take this example because they're not married, but Ian Bryce and Michael Bay get in the same car at the end of every day for set. At the beginning of every day, they get out of the same vehicle and they're together. Ian Bryce is the kind of producer that shows up to fold boxes. What I mean is that during the Transformers 3 show, there was a bunch of production assistants, myself included, that were way out in the sticks somewhere in Indiana. So it's some place that's just an oil field and some abandoned freeway where we're shooting this scene. And during the scene, we had to fold like 10,000 of these boxes to make what's called a box catch. They took a SUV, flipped it, and it landed in the box. They took 2 of them, flipped them, and they landed in the boxes. What was happening is these 2 Decepticons were flying up in the air and then transforming. But, they used real SUVs and they didn't want to damage them. The box catchers worked so well, the only thing that got damaged was one light on the car, and one of the mirrors got bent in, and as soon as they righted it, the guy flipped open the mirror and they drove both of the cars away. I mean, so, cardboard works because it caught 2 flying SUVs. The point is at the end of the night,
a bunch of the production assistants are going into double and triple overtime kind of thing. And we're out there crushing the boxes and loading them on pallets and trying to get them in the back of this truck. Ian Bryce shows up and helps us fold boxes and helps motivate us to go fast. It was one of those things where he has to shoot the next day and he has to deal with Michael Bay, but he's still covering Michael's edges because they went over budget. And so he's trying to get this thing to stop bleeding money at the same time there with the director. And it's that whole kind of responsibility. Like what you're really talking about is support for creative.
Yeah.
The support for creative is huge, and when that doesn't happen, you know, a DP should never be in that position, but it's cool to know that Brandon
Rakowski, kind of funny too,
the buck stops here.
It's kind of funny too, because that whole story takes place before I even wanted to be a DP. Oof. At that point, like, this was within the first 2 or 3 months of me having graduated. At that point, I was trying to get into post-production.
Yeah.
The only reason I ever DP'd projects at that time was because the original DP would back out, and I'm the only person on that crew list that would at least have the confidence to touch a camera and at least try to arrange lights into something that's coherent. In reality, back then, I had no idea what to do. Like, I was not a DP. I was just somebody that was filling the role of DP at that time.
Chris Walken had a great story about, or a great quote about acting and everything else. He just, it's like building a house. Just go build a fucking house. Like, you'll figure it out eventually. Like, like you'll make enough mistakes and you'll figure out how to do it. And
as Mark wires the plumbing to explode.
I mean, I wouldn't do the plumbing or the electric. But yeah, no, it'd be trial and error. Just keep doing it. Keep doing it, doing it, doing it, doing it, do it over again, and then eventually you'll get it right. If you love it enough, you'll figure it out. Zacchaeus, I want to hear your story. We're gonna go around this way.
It can only be one of two possible stories.
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out which one I want to talk about.
Well, you know what? They don't have to be bad either. They can be funny. They can be enjoyable. They can be enjoyable too. They don't have to be awful. We don't have to talk about horror stories.
This is a horror podcast.
I get that.
Yeah.
But I know that's kind of ironic, but it's also production advice.
I'm trying to figure out what fucking story I wanted to talk about.
I mean, the simple one though is the first time I ever met him was when he covered what's her face in blood.
Oh,
and,
all right. I guess we can talk about a happy moment.
That actually was the first time I was ever an executive producer, because it was my father's basement. And I actually had to, he had to come and talk to me, and I was production manager / executive producer, and he's like, hey Mark, what can we do, to make sure that we don't get a lot of blood on the sidewalk? I actually went and I bought a tarp and put the tarp.
What we did is we went out and we got a whole bunch of just garbage bags, just the light ones, and we just laid a fucking trail of them to the shooting location in the basement because he didn't want to get fake blood on the concrete dirt dusty floor that was already dirty.
Yeah, but hey, we made it work. We made it happen.
And we also got cancer.
The amount of dust we all breathed in.
So you know what? You don't really right, dude. I will die younger than all of us will probably die younger.
I guess I'll talk about that because I talk about the other two fucking horror sets a lot, but
that had its problems too.
Yeah, this one is probably the most horrifying to me because literally everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. So
Michigan?
No, my senior.
Oh, okay, your senior.
So for my senior project, it wasn't the project I actually wanted to shoot originally because my teacher wouldn't let me, act in it because you can't do that. Fucking dumbass rules. Anyways, so
how do you really feel
about that?
Yeah. Anyways, so after I shot that, about close to a year later, I planned on shooting the script I wanted to, which was the sequel to my senior script, and I was getting close to graduation. I was getting very nervous that I wouldn't get an opportunity to really shoot this piece, so I wanted to still use the school's equipment, so I kind of threw everything together last minute, and I started shooting it. So day one, we're shooting in the basement of my buddy's apartment building. Everything is going semi-well. We finish the shoot day, and then we figure out, oh good, we can't shoot at that location anymore. So this is a 4-day shoot, mind you, so I'm over here freaking the hell out. Thankfully, Mark comes in and calls his dad, and once again his dad gives us a location and saves my ass.
Second time.
Yep. So that was just the start of the problem. So we get to the shooting location day 2. We try to save as much as we can. We reshoot some of the stuff from day 1, but thankfully a good portion of the stuff we shot from the original location is easily used for the second location because we made them look similar. So it's like, okay, cool. I was not the smartest person when writing the shot list. So the way I set it up, so pretty much it's all one scene. It's all in one location. Our little boy Mark here is tied to a chair, and the great actress Kalika is tied to a chair right across from him. I set it up to where I would constantly have to switch the lighting setups, move camera and everything. It's just like, okay, we're going to shoot Kalika stuff, then we're going to shoot Mark. I essentially shot it in order, is what I did. And I did that
swear Zach was not the director that I said.
He was not.
No. Like, that was just complete and utter incompetence on a set in general. Me, at least, I make sure my actors are, semi-comfortable. To the best of their ability, at least.
According to everybody else, I don't quite remember this. Apparently, I was very comfortable.
Oh yeah, no. Mark was very eager to remove his pants the entire set.
Dude, I had just watched. Crusades. I had just watched it, and I knew about that whole thing with Harrison Ford and Sean Connery, and how they both did that whole thing where they're tied back to back, pantsless, and I thought, wow, that'd be a cool experience to try. Sure. Sue me.
I wish you could see the look on Jeff's face. Yeah, no, this was my second time working with Mark. Me and him had talked and hung out. My first set ever working with Mark was my senior.
Yeah.
And he blew the fucking, audition out of the role. The two greatest actors I've ever worked with, Mark Conway and Kalika Reedman. Phenomenal fucking actor and actress.
Thank you.
Yes. But, continuing on. So, okay, day 2, it's kind of picking up all the scraps from the first day and everything. And it's just like, alright, shit's a little rough, but we're going to get through it. Day 3 comes. So it starts off, I'm trying to order food, and my credit card gets declined.
Yeah, buddy.
Because apparently, a purchase was made in New York, which made no goddamn sense. I don't know, I guess Grubhub was acting weird that day. I got a funny text from my buddy saying he bought a game, and he lives in New York, and I'm just, connecting the dots, and I'm just like, I know it wasn't you, but you really should have sent that text at this time, you son of a bitch. And then later on, just things are just kind of going out of control and all that, just pretty much, things just aren't slightly working. I'm having trouble trying to figure out how I'm going to do some of the special effects and makeup things because I didn't properly prepare for them. The final day comes around, and for some reason, the power just decided, hey, ComEd just decided to cut off all power to the building.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so we're in the middle of shooting, we're about halfway through the day, and all of a sudden, pew! I look at David. He's like, I don't fucking know. I look at Mark. What the fuck's happening?
I swear to god, it was like, this is the XFL. Like the fucking power just... And no, we did not forget to put gas in the generator. It was ComEd's fault.
I'm over here just like, are you fucking kidding me? And also, it didn't help that we were on a very tight schedule because I had to have one actress come in and she had to be in and out for that time. I think we had a total of an hour just to shoot her stuff. Beautiful part about that was I got to cover her in head to toe in blood, and it was one of the most beautiful things in the world. Mark keeps saying he's never seen me smile like that before, ever since.
So that was 3 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know. Apparently, I had the biggest fucking glow on my face when I finally got to do that. So
yeah, Zach's one of the reasons why I have a larger appreciation of horror, because you'll never meet a nicer, more energetic and more enthusiastic group of people. They just love what they do, and Zach's a very, very clear example of that.
You're aware that this man stabs me on a regular basis, right?
Yeah, no one's perfect.
Look, I don't penetrate the skin, you don't bleed, and you're still alive, okay? I think you should be
The
happy.
phrase penetrate the skin should tell everyone a lot.
Yeah, it really should. Not to mention all the other crazy shit that we talked about in the last 2 hours. It was yeah, it had its problems, man, but you get through it.
Yeah, like my cinematography teacher, one of the first things he taught us in class, God hates filmmakers. You are creating worlds. You're
That
creating
is a fact.
Yeah,
That is an
it's
absolute fact.
It's like you are doing pretty much what he does, just in some cases better. So he's going to do everything in his power to fuck you over. And that statement was never more true that day. More shit happened, but I can't really talk about that. And it's just like... even the shit show sets that I was on, I wasn't nearly as stressed out as I was. Because here's the thing. That was my set. I was a director.
You're always the most stressed out.
Always.
You know, I've done shitty jobs where I was a grip, visual effects supervisor and stuff. Even a weird fucked up audio story once where I was an audio guy, which made no goddamn sense.
Which one was that?
The side story. I'll go into that one later. Pretty much most stressful thing I've ever been on. The side audio story, this was kind of funny. So I was looking for random jobs on Craigslist. This one paid $50 for the day, and I'm just like, alright, fuck it. So I was pretty much the boom operator assistant for a guy conveniently named Mark.
Okay.
And, we're getting everything set up, and I don't know who the fuck this person was.
I'm sorry, a spider just landed on my arm. So.
Oh, that's fine. But yeah, I don't know.
That's just Doug.
I don't know.
That's just Doug.
Did you kill Doug?
He's right here, so I hope you didn't squash him.
Shut up. Anyway, so me and the audio guy are setting up, and all of a sudden, I think this was the AD who came in, and I guess he was getting everything situated. He's like, "All right, what frame rate are you guys recording at?" What? What frame rate are you guys recording at? I'm like, "We're the sound guy. I know. What frame rate are you guys going to be recording at? What resolution?" I'm just like, "Oh." I stepped away for...
Brendan's out! Brendan's out! Brendan's walking away!
So Brandon just did what I did. I stepped away for 5 seconds because I look at the guy, I'm like, I'm gonna leave. And I just hear screaming, "Are you fucking serious? What the... How are you... Oh, I was like, oh my god. What? I'm scared. I'm scared.
Wait a minute, who was screaming?
The audio guy... I think this was the AD asking these questions. Like, I don't know, had a pen and paper and all that shit. And it's just like, because he was making sure he got all the data and stuff. And he was asking us frame rate, resolution. We're the fucking audio guys.
I'm confused. I can't even process. I don't even know what box to put that in.
I mean, he could ask.
I was being paid to just hold a boom mic. I don't have time for this shit.
You know what
Brandon, are you getting whiskey?
Brandon literally walked to the other. Is that an option? Is there whiskey?
No, there's not whiskey in here.
But it's like, that was one of the most mind-blowing... That was probably the dumbest thing I've ever seen on set before. I've seen some dumb shit, but that was by far the dumbest.
Not dumber than Michigan?
There's a lot of dumb shit on Michigan, but this was just mind-blowingly stupid. I've never had somebody ever since come up to me and ask, what frame rate are you recording at when it comes to sound? Just...
and good God, Jeff, I can't even think about how many stories that you might have. Hell, I
don't even know where to start.
I've been not only have you been on every type of set. You've been on film sets, television sets, independent sets with people in this room. I mean, I can think of 20 stories from sets I've been on with you.
I don't know. This is the one I was thinking of. Okay, so I got 2 stories I'll tell. The first one is when I was a production assistant on Man of Steel. There were two lives I kind of had on that show. When we were in Plano, Illinois, I was part of AD staff and running around. I would sprint from one end of the set to the other end of the set. Other PAs were calling me to help resolve problems, and I was doing it. And I was doing as much as I knew to do, and I was told at one point I was a little bit too much drill instructor, a little, not everybody's friend, but at one point I was handed the set by my boss. He said, I'm going to step away. I have the set. The first AD was still there, but the second stepped away, and I basically took the second spot and stood next to what I call ground zero, which is where the first team actors are, so the main actors on the call sheet, and the producers, cinematographer, where Video Village is. And so I'm standing at ground zero, which is wherever the cameras are, and it's action. And I'm calling cadence for the, 50 PAs that are all over downtown Plano, Illinois. And I get a lot of people were talking shit about that or were upset about it, whatever. But I got to do it, and I had a conversation with Henry Cavill in that moment, and I was talking to Zack Snyder and the DP from that show, and we were all having a conversation there. And so even though people were mad at me and didn't like me on the, other PAs didn't like me, I have that moment, and I remember learning from that interaction, and my boss at the time, Andy Spellman, walked up to me and said, "Listen, bro, you did great today. I know you're stressed out, but there's something you got to learn: tact. There's a way to do what you're doing without being as hard." And he wanted to bring me up and make me an AD and everything, and had made the offer, but I declined because it didn't include my best friend, which was a guy named Rob Rhodes, who's now a VFX supervisor, and you can look him up. He does Black Lightning. He did the Teen Titans live action film. He's all over the industry killing it. And we were both on that show. The second part of this first story is I got pulled into locations and was in way over my head in terms of what I was ready for. And the locations part was I actually got fired from this job. And I screwed up. I mean, the bottom line is I didn't. When you deliver a locations agreement for someone to sign at a location, especially when it's a big location, you also want to deliver the check. The checks and the contracts came in two separate parts. One, they were coming from the production office by two different people because a bunch of communication had gotten screwed up. So our boss told everybody to do a certain way, and I didn't do it that way. And I'm not really sure to this day what exactly happened, but I delivered the contract, told her I delivered it, and then the lady called her, said I opened the envelope and there was no check in there, and my boss was furious. And so that was happening at this time, and I didn't know that I was going to be fired, and I was fired the next day. But I knew I'd screwed up, and I just was so depressed by it. And what my boss didn't know is that I was actually living off of my paychecks because I lived in a town called Westmont and had to take the metro train into town to work on the Man of Steel stuff that was shooting downtown in the Loop in Chicago. The metro trains run at really specific times, and they don't run early enough in the morning that I can get to set by 6 o'clock call time. So I was sleeping downtown. Slept one night in a hotel, slept another night outside. Essentially, I stayed up all night and slept on the street. And my boss had no idea. I don't know that she actually cared, but it's the kind of thing that I told her this years later, and she said, I really had no idea. And I was like, well, you also had a million things that you were doing. The thing that I got out of it is later that day, I'm in the elevator in the Sears Tower, and I'm taking this guy up the elevator. I was told to go downstairs, catch this person. They're going to show up, escort them. Going through the Sears Tower is very difficult. It's a maze because the floors are divided up into certain elevators, and you have to go through certain parts. Security is insane there. And it's a convoluted process, and we're way up on these two empty floors near the top of the building. And I'm taking this guy up in the elevator, and we start talking, and it turns out that he's the creative director for the Justice League animated show. He's also the person that did the storyboards for all of the Man of Steel shows, because Zack Snyder is actually a fan of comics. He's a comic book fan. He reads them in his spare time. It's like something that is part of his life. And so this guy and I start talking, and there's a scene where Wonder Woman goes to Apocalypse, and she's fighting Barta and the Furies, and she's incorporating like 5 or 6 different martial arts styles that are very obvious to somebody that studied martial arts. and she does this rope technique that's something very specific, where she wraps the rope around her foot and then steps on it, and it's something out of Wing Chun. And I commented something about that, and he was like, wow, dude, that's really great that you caught that. You put these little details into your work, and you hope somebody notices. And then he just opened up to me and started talking. And, like, we wanted to exchange numbers and get to know each other. And I had this crazy opportunity. When I got him to set, I walked him into Zack Snyder, dumped him off personally to Zack Snyder, then walked over to Crafty, and Amy Adams was waiting at Crafty. And I chatted with Amy Adams for a few minutes. And I literally ran into the UPM, the director, everybody. I talked to everybody that was a big deal on the set in 5 minutes and realized where I was. And it hit me that it didn't matter what happened the next day. And of course, the next day I was like, oh, or I think that afternoon, or so, they told me later, we don't need your help anymore. Basically, the very nice, polite film version of fuck you. But I went away knowing that I did the best I could. I didn't understand what I did wrong. And completely, I know that I was too nervous. I mean, I was just, like, I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating right, and I was nervous, so overwhelmed. 2 years before that, probably 2007, was the lowest point of my life. And to come out of that really, really low point to this, it was impossible. What was happening was impossible. So that's one story. And I think that the point of that story is that no matter what happens on set, you live again to fight another day, and you're going to learn. There's going to be stuff that happens, and it's not always going to be good. It's not always going to be the way it is, and people are going to have a perception of you. Years later, I production coordinated an independent film, and I was also kind of training the UPM at the same time, who had been hired above me, but hadn't ever done it before, and we were doing the jobs together, and it was a team effort, and so I was able to help the UPM do her job and support her. And this woman that was my boss on Man of Steel was the producer on the show, and she didn't know that I had been hired, and she's never hired me for anything since, and I don't know that she ever will. But she said after that, she said, wow, you've really redeemed yourself. You did a really great job being a production coordinator, which is, steps above a PA. A lot more responsibility and stuff. So there is a second life in film if you learn, if you're willing to make yourself learn. The other story...
But Jeff,
go
do
ahead.
me a huge favor, man.
What?
Before you move on to this, and I'm actually going to record and put it on Instagram. There's one story that you told me a while back that I really want you to tell on
Which
Man
one?
of Steel, Sunlight.
Oh, the Sunlight story.
The if you can tell the Sunlight story on Man of Steel, that'd be awesome.
Okay, so there's this story on Man of Steel is ironic because one of the people that's in this story has passed away. I'm trying to think of how to structure this story because now I'm in the same union as that guy, and he's no longer with us. But it was my so I'm a lockup additional PA. I'm there's extras, there's background extras, and then there's production assistants, additional production assistants, not the core group of set PAs, but the additional PAs are almost background. They're almost extras in terms of their value on set. I mean, they're valuable, but they're not like, you're not talking to the talent, you're not talking to stand-ins, you're not talking to camera operators, you're kind of doing what your little universe is and hoping you don't get fired every single day is kind of what's the feeling of that. So they're setting a bunch of what they were calling roaches. Special effects is basically setting explosives all in the middle of the street. And my job is to ask crew members to not walk through essentially a landmine field. They've got det cord, I guess, running through this field, which is an explosive detonator cord that's running to these roach pockets. I think. That's probably not right because det cord is explosive. But anyways, there's explosives lined in the street because there's an A-10 Warthog that comes in and shoots at the bad guys. And so they need to make the street look like it blows up. And crew keeps walking by it. And I keep saying, hey, don't walk through the minefield. Hey, don't walk through the minefield. And one of the crew goes, I don't have to listen to a PA. Walks right through the middle of the minefield right in front of me, kind of like taunting me. and he doesn't see the special effects supervisor, the producer, Zack Snyder, the director of photography, all standing outside the minefield looking at the setup, and they see him walking through, and the director, Zack Snyder, gets on the bullhorn and says, and they all yell at the same time, "Get the out of the minefield, yada yada," and one of the special effects technicians comes up right behind me and says, "Hey, listen to this guy, he's trying to," and chews the crew member out, and it was like, oh, okay, so I'm not the bad guy. But the story that Mark is talking about happened right after that. There's a scene where Henry Cavill is standing in the middle of the street, and he's waiting, and we're waiting, and we're waiting, and the super suit, by the way, costs about $400,000 and takes about 45 minutes for an hour for them to get him into it. It's internally water cooled so that he doesn't sweat. Because he's in this big suit, so the risk is he's standing out in the sun, he'll get heat stroke. It's dangerous for the actor. So they had to build this special suit to keep Henry cool. The side effect is that he doesn't sweat a bunch, so his makeup's not running. So he looks perfect when he's in the suit. And he stands out in the middle, and this is the first version of that suit. And he's standing there, and the clouds break. In Plano, it's like 105 degrees at the time. It's the middle of the summer. And he stands there. There happens to be clouds this day, and the cloud moves out of the way, and they call action. And he stands here like this. The wind hits his cape. The cape billows perfectly. The sun literally goes like across his body, and then as it hits the S on his chest, the S catches on fire. And I mean, we're talking in real life. It looks like it's the S. I've never seen anything like this. It's just a reflective material and how it hit the sunlight. And then he goes boom, like he's going to take off, and it stole my breath. It's one of the most amazing moments it's what you want a superhero movie experience to be like. It's literally the thing that makes you say, that's why I'm doing this job. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm getting yelled at. That's why I'm not getting paid right. That's why I'm sleeping outside. That I'm going to remember the rest of my life. The crazy thing is when you watch the movie, you don't see it the way it looked to me on set that day. So that whole thing, that was for me. That's it. I'm the only person that saw that besides Zack Snyder, who was standing right next to me. Zack Snyder standing to my left with the DP and the camera, but the camera, when this happened, I mean, they went and did that take 1,000,000 times. But that moment where he did that, and there was a pause, he went, the fire thing happened with his chest, and then I think they called action, and he went like this. So it was just before they called action. So Zack saw it, called the roll, and then they got what was ever, as the S was on fire. But I mean, it was like golden light was pouring out of the S. And it's one of those things that's never, I'll never forget that. But I have a ton of memories like that, which is why, shameless. I'm a dolly gripped sitting on a porch with Emmy Rossum talking during a rainstorm, talking about peppermint patty jokes. It's like, it's just these memories I can't ever. It's a miracle I get to do what I get to do, and I'm grateful for it every day. I guess that's two stories. I mean, it's. I was going to tell an indie story, but I guess I kind of did that. I mean, there's one. There's one thing I wanted to say from the directing perspective. There's on the show Pastor's Plight, I watched people in this room. Brandon wasn't with us yet, but it's the kind of thing where I watched something that was a conversation that had started really with Mark a couple years before, and then evolved into something that Zach and I had written, and then ended up in this short film. And I walked on to set after I didn't sleep the whole night before, and there's 30 people standing here ready to go, and there's not a director's chair. There's not crafty. It's an indie set. But everybody is working. Everybody's doing something. Everybody's in it. And I don't know how many hours we shot that day.
It wasn't that. Let's see. We started at roughly around, I would say, 8. 8:30, 9 o'clock. It went till about 4:30, maybe 5 at the latest, because it was still pretty high sun at that.
Yeah, the light. It was still
It
light
didn't go.
when
It
we
didn't go
called
late.
around.
How would you know? We blacked out all the windows.
Yeah, we ended up having to shoot day for night.
I was gonna say that was fun climbing up there. I had PA. I tried doing it myself. I'm like, no, fuck this. PAs.
Well,
And then PJ showed up, and thankfully he's tall as a goddamn skyscraper. So I'm like, hey, buddy, come here.
yeah, it was kind of the culmination of that year, at least for me personally, and it's the kind of thing that whatever the results, whatever the end story, because the end story for Pastor's Plight still isn't written yet. That was a beautiful thing, and that was something that it's one of those memories that makes film worth it all the time. You know, I tell the Michael Bay story about how I got into film in this city. You guys have all heard this story 1,000 times. Basically, Rob Rhodes and myself made a cardboard sign that said film students will PA for credit. Michael Bay comes out on the set from Transformers 3, sees the sign. Him and Ian Bryce gave us jobs on the spot. We worked 11 days on that show, and Rob went on to fortune and glory, and
And now you're here.
I'm here with you guys. I'm still alive, you know.
Hey, we're very happy that you're here.
Yeah, we're making films, and
Plot twist, we're really dead. This is coming from the afterlife.
Yes.
It's
Squiggly wiggly.
yeah. I'm really happy. What do we say?
Squirrels.
Hungry, happy, something, and blessed. We're just happy to be able to do what we do, and I'm glad that I finally found film. You know, after doing 1,000 different jobs and saying, "Oh, people get paid to do this." Thank God. You know,
who knew?
I said when I first got into film in 2005 that if everybody knew what I had just discovered about filmmaking, they'd all be doing it. It's too bad that not everybody knows what it's like to step on the other side of the camera.
Oh yeah.
It's like there's nothing like that rush. I mean, you guys know when the first shot's up and you're doing something that's a narrative that you've all worked together to do. When you're sitting on Nightmare, it's one of those pure moments. It's like this is the whole point. This is why we're here. And then it just is exacerbated when you get on as your shows get bigger and bigger and bigger and the budgets get bigger, you start to see the dream taking shape, and it's like this is where I want to be, and it's just one of those perfect moments in life. It's like swimming with a shark.
That's a whole other great experience right there. Fully recommend it, you know, as long as you're not a fucking moron and know what the hell you're doing. But
Or listen to the people you go out there with.
Just make sure that open water doesn't happen.
Yeah, don't.
no,
Do a head
that's-
count.
Yeah, you know, keep a list, take a picture of everybody. You know, don't be those guys.
Mostly pay the fuck attention to where the boat is.
That too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too.
Or just don't go too far out to the point where you can't see where the hell you. I don't know. Just make sure you can always see land.
I'm having a real hard time following that shit.
Have you seen Open Water?
No.
he's talking about the
all
stories.
your shit. I probably shouldn't have picked. I shouldn't have picked. I shouldn't have picked.
Oh yeah, you
last.
should have put yourself last.
Yeah. I did ask the question, so you know. So this is what it is.
It's your fault, Mark. You did
Mark,
it.
we already know your story. Tell us about the elevator.
And I was that's one of them.
He's already told the elevator story on this podcast.
Have I told the elevator story?
Yeah,
on this
That was,
podcast?
I think, our first episode.
Oh, and then you know about that. You know what's something funny is I've actually had the distinction of being on a set where a lot of things went wrong, but half the cast, or pretty much the entire cast, and most of the crew had no fucking idea that things were going wrong. It's a pilot that I shot with you. There was a lot of
What pilot?
Oh,
you won't say what pilot.
I won't say what pilot it
okay,
is.
Don't say that.
I won't say what pilot it is, but
I know what you're talking about.
I didn't know any. I never
had. You know what's something funny?
It's the toughest. It's one of the toughest shows I've ever had.
It actually. You know what? So many things went right just as much as they went wrong, so it kind of balanced the whole damn thing out. And also because the executive producing staff and the directing staff had a really good way of shielding the rest of the cast from what the hell was going on and the turmoil that was going on. The The only thing that was interesting about that is, and I had no problem doing it. In hindsight, I realized how probably inappropriate it was. But a lead actor shouldn't call his own cadence on a set. Even though it's fun and I love fucking calling cadence.
Mark just keeps giving me goals.
It's
an
excuse for Mark to be loud and not get in trouble.
He's
always loud. He just doesn't get in trouble.
Because Jeff, can anybody call cadence quite like I can?
Well, I can, but
besides you,
the only reason I'm saying that is because I was in a military school where I got trained to be a drill instructor. So
you definitely.
I cheated.
Yeah, you kind of cut.
Mark comes by it naturally. I had to have.
You have to have years.
Somebody.
Teachable training.
Yeah.
Words. I've definitely had my fair share of funny experiences, bad experiences. That was one. Everything that was going on, this is where a good producer and a good director can really shield the rest of the people of the shoot from any turmoil and any bullshit that's going on. I learned a lot on that particular set. The elevator story I've already talked about in Consequence. The other thing I really didn't talk about though was the sound guy pretty much being on drugs. Even though I had to go to the director and actually tell him that he was falling asleep, like in between takes, like he with the boom mic, cuddling the boom mic in the corner, and somebody had to come up and wake him up to like go back to set.
It's not professional, but I have seen that on bigger shows where it's sometimes more acceptable. On an indie show, it depends. You got to use your judgment there.
And actually, funny enough, and everything else, it worked out really well. In one of the shots, you actually had to shut the door on us and keep us outside. So not only did you metaphorically shield us from other drama, you actually physically shielded us from drama by shutting us outside.
Which is hilarious
Just
because
put this here.
There's something that happened when we opened that door. There were people that crossed in the background that weren't supposed to be there. There was crew in that shot.
Thus part of the story and part of the drama. We suspect that it might have been deliberate.
Yeah, but it doesn't really matter. Nope. It's the kind of thing where shit happens on set, and
it does.
and there's second life for everybody, and I thought it was great. I really enjoyed that process, and
I think the one thing I will say though about it, and it's something that I've discovered on set. I got plenty of great stories. A sound guy falling asleep in the corner. I've had to deal with.
Did you guys draw on him?
No, we didn't. I had to deal with elevators going up and down. It was the same shoot. It was an 8-hour shoot that should have been probably about 4. It was extended out, because there was no proper second AD to keep time and first AD to keep time.
Elevators will fuck everything up.
Oh, I'm adding that to Hitchcock's list. Children, animals, and elevators.
My goal is to shoot a scene where Mark's in an elevator, has to slate himself and call cadence.
And I had to slate myself in one of the scenes.
So I do have an elevator story that you reminded me of. I'm sorry.
Go
ahead.
Thought and everything else.
For the record, it's going to be 11 in about a minute.
Okay. So we'll give me a second. I want to hear his elevator story. I want to tell my story real quick. All right. So the two quick things I was to say was when chemistry works, it works. I've had the privilege of being on sets and being in casts where things just fucking flowed and worked really, really well. And that was one of them. And everybody in this room I've had that feeling with. And I've, and it's a feeling that I chase constantly where you all, when you have collective energy and you all feel that you're working towards a common goal, it's a really good fucking feeling. Funny story I'll tell though is being on the set of Clowns. We had about 15 extras doing a protest scene, myself in full clown makeup, and then an entire main cast of sheriffs. We were in literally second setup shot, and there's a cafe across the street. Harley Davidson with its basically he must have cut off half of his fucking muffler, so that it was extra fucking loud, barreling down downtown Crown Point and everything else around it comes around the other side. We can hear him for 2 blocks. Comes around the other side, pulls up to the cafe, pulls up onto the sidewalk, kicks the kickstand, pulls it over, leaves the fucker running and everything else, comes in, goes into the cafe, and people are out. It's a beautiful, gorgeous day. People are watching us shoot scenes and everything else. And there's people that are sitting at this cafe laughing hysterically because 30 fucking people all shifted like this and is death staring this dude on that has his fucking Harley running. And there's like 20 people in this cafe laughing hysterically, and they're pointing at us. They're pointing at the guy. They actually talked to the guy, and he didn't want to listen to him. They tried to say, "Hey, sir," and he's like, no, I don't want to talk to you and everything else. Had no idea that 30 fucking people were staring at him. He actually got onto his bike, sat there for at least 5 more minutes, and we were all about to run over there and charge across the street. And then finally, he fucking hit his bike in reverse and then turned around and drove it. Never fucking realized that he was being death stared by 30 people, and 20 people in a cafe were laughing at him because he was fucking up an entire shot. So that was one of the funniest stories. And also, one of the cast members in full fucking clown makeup with a ridiculous umbrella, me, and everything else, also staring at him within a group and everything else. And we clearly can see there's a camera equipment, loading equipment, sound equipment. You can clearly see, with the exception of a fucking sign that says, "We're filming here," and everything else. You have every clue to be possibly imagined, and this guy still didn't even fucking see what the hell was going on. He never knew, and then just drove away. And then we had to wait another block for him to in his Harley with half a muffler to fucking finish his ride down the street.
Oh, Jesus!
Never even realized.
One of the things we do now is when somebody does some dumb shit like that, you can film them. People put it on their phones and like you're tagging this asshole, and then if the movies or the show's big enough or gets distribution or whatever, then that can come back to that guy and be like, "Look at this D-bag." But yeah, thank God for set security. That's all I have to say about that. And that's the real purpose of a PA, is to sit there and irritate the guy. "Hey, buddy, can you move? Is there any way you can move this? Is there any way you can move this? Hey, is there any way you can shut your bike off? What if you shut your bike off? Would that be great if you shut your bike off?" Yada, yada. And take all that abuse, and the set just sits there, and security just stands by and waits. And waits and waits and waits and waits.
And funny enough, the security would have been the opposite that day. Instead of the security protecting the cast and crew against people, it would have been the security protecting the people against cast and crew. Because that guy would have been pulled off of his fucking bike and murdered.
Beat to death.
Is Mark sitting here in his makeup beating him with a big red umbrella?
Yeah,
Motherfucker!
No.
You guys seen that thing where the Easter Bunny's beating the shit out of some guy in the street?
Arizona?
Yeah. I'd do one of that, but Mark and clown makeup. They're fighting some bikers.
I hate frowners.
Mr. Rogers is your friend. So the elevators thing, I'll tell really quick. Christian Slater and I, on the set of Influence, got stuck in an elevator together, and it's me, Christian Slater, Steve Zahn, the camera operator who's holding the steady cam, and the first AD. So the shot is we come out of the elevator and go around the corner. Now I have to operate the elevator. I'm not an elevator technician. I'm not gonna fucking know how to operate the elevator, but the guy who is supposed to do it from the building isn't there. And so they elect a PA to do it. And so my job is to try to control this elevator.
Oh, God. Good luck.
Right. And so I'm sitting here trying to time the elevator. And the very first take, the elevator closes on the camera. And anyways, we figure it out. And the camera operator is able to protect the camera. I'm able to protect the camera. But it still clicks on the side of, and it's the steady cam, so he's got a bunch of crap around the actual camera body Thank God it didn't close on the lens.
I would have loved to have seen
and
Brandon's
it was
face
just
in
like
that scenario.
I thought, like all the blood drained out of my face. I turned around and looked at the guys, and there was a female extra in the thing with us. We are all literally smashed into this elevator like sardines. People farted, and I'm not gonna say who, but we are in this setup. Then we go to lunch, and we come back for lunch, and Christian and myself are standing in the elevator waiting to get back to work. And he looks at me, and I look at him, and I'm like, he's like, do you think we can go to the bathroom? I was like, bro, you're number one on the call sheet. You can do whatever the fuck you want. He goes, you know what? That's true. And he says, do you have to? I said, I have to go to the bathroom. Are you kidding? I ate the tacos for lunch too. And he's like, fuck it, we're getting out of here. I get on my radio, and I go, hey, Christian Slater and myself are 10-2, which on set 10-1 means you're going number one, you're peeing, and 10-2 means you're taking a dump. So we come to find out there are only 2 stalls anywhere on the floor of this building that we need to go to, and we're in the same bathroom. So I'm sitting next to Christian Slater, and we're playing battle shits.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And Christian Slater is the one that says it. He says, well, bro, this is certainly an interesting story. I can't believe we're sitting in here he's like, I have to shit. I know you have to shit. It's just what it is. And he's talking to me the whole time. And I'm cracking up, and we're fucking laughing and shitting. And my radio's going off, and they're going, what's happening? Where's Christian? I said, he's 10-2 for the 3rd time. And they're like, how do you know that? Do you have eyes on him? I said, yes, I'm in the stall next to him.
The whole fucking crew can hear that over the mic.
And Christian goes, are they still fucking asking about that? It's like, I don't know why they don't listen to me. And he said, well, that's not your fault. And sure enough, we get back into the elevator, and Steve Zahn's waiting for us, and he says something like, you guys have a good time? I said, oh yeah, everything came out all right. And so the great part is literally the next shot we got the take, and that was it. And we got it back from lunch. We got it in one. And then I was just stuck in the elevator for the rest of the day, but I had a story that's for the rest of my life.
So it would be a fun scenario.
I've always liked Christian Slater, but I love him so much more now. You
I
have to be a chill person.
He is
like that.
He's the easiest dude to work with, and he's always off book. He's always ready to go. He's never late. He's one of those guys who just it begs the question. I'm so grateful that he got Mr. Robot. I don't know why he's not bigger. I mean, he's a household name still, but I've been a fan of his since Gleaming the Cube. IMDb that movie. My brother and I used to talk about the whole phrase where the guy says, yeah, but those wheels aren't good for anything. They're made for speed. And Christian Slater goes, perfect. And we used to get into this whole thing. And if you've never seen Gleaming the Cube, it's a skater movie from the 80s. It's about skateboarding and being rebellious. And I've been a fan since then. And to actually get to work with him and then have a battle shit story. I don't know. It's like, what's his name in the fucking Jarhead movie? Where else are you going to see this shit?
Yeah.
It's like, where else do you get to do this? I can't believe I got fucking paid to do that.
All right, so that about does it for our time. Unfortunately, we can't keep going. As I have to get ready for a early gig tomorrow.
Dick.
Hey, gotta pay the bills somehow. I'd like to say thank you to Jeff for being our guest.
Thank you guys for having me. It was fun.
Outro, is there anything you want to plug or?
GoLuckyStudios.com for all of your marketing and production needs. Everything from locations to PR and strategy, developing brands and shooting stuff. Hit us up, let us know, drop us a line, let us know what your thoughts are, and our motto is everyone's dreams are important. So
very cool. Thank you for listening. Of course, don't forget to like our video, subscribe to our YouTube page, follow us on Facebook, Instagram. Got the hiccups here. Instagram, Snapchat. Mark, Zach, you guys got anything?
And very soon all of our podcasts will be available on Anchor, and then those will be transmitted over to Spotify and some other places for podcasts. So please.
Did you say Anchor or Anger?
Anchor.
Anchor.
Anchor,
Okay.
as in the big thing that goes off the side of the ship.
Oh, okay.
The thing that woke me up every early morning on my second ship that I lived on.
That too. So, so please give us a follow on that as well as we explained to Jeff what an anchor is.
An angry anchor.
Indeed. Did it.
So
Zach,
we're not talking about Ron Burgundy?
Nope. Zach, anything else? Squirrels?
Squirrels.
Squirrels. Take it easy, guys.
Hit the button, Zach.